Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about something we all want to talk about. It's the FNCS Major 1 Finals this weekend. And we know mostly who's going to be in the Major 1 Finals. We still have the last chance qualifier this week. And so we'll get 3 more teams added to the lobby. And technically there are a couple like big names that could end up qualifying through last chance. But for the most part, I feel like we know who are the contenders for the Major 1 Finals. Like, we know who are the best teams competing to win it all. And so I want us to rank those teams. Today we're going to rank on a tier list the teams in EU and NA within the same tier list. Revolutionary. No one ever does this. Everyone always splits up EU and NA.
You're changing the game.
We are changing the game here on FNtasia podcast. Yeah, so we got a list of the teams who are contending to win in EU and in NA. We're going to rank them on a tier list. Is there anything else? I think that's all we need.
Get into it. Get into it.
So let's get started then. Let's get started. We have iDrop, Sky, and Scroll as the first team here to discuss. Are we going to put them in S tier as an S tier contender for the championship? Are we going to put them in A, B, C, or D? The funny thing is here, right? If I'm predicting early on, I don't think anyone's really going to be in like B. It's hard. I feel like if you're considered a contender to win, it's hard to be a D tier contender. But who knows? Maybe there will be someone. We'll get there eventually. iDrop, Sky, and Scroll to start off with. Where do we rank them when it comes to winning FNCS this season?
I mean, if you're just going off purely placements, could they have really done much more to be in contention? They've been top 5 most finals. They've won a Div 1 finals, and they convincingly got through groups. They can't do much more. But there's just something in the back of my mind which is like, they're not there just yet. There's something where it's like, there's a lot of seasons where iDrop's up in the conversation. He's there sometimes, multiple times. I remember Jerky when he was going on height all the time in Cash Cups. I remember back with Tayson when they used to play in trios, like, again, another contender to win FNCS. There's been multiple seasons where iDrop's been in the conversation. And it just feels like he never takes that step, the next step to be like a top 3, a top 4, or even winning. So I still like, just off performance, yeah, they're up there. But for me right now, I'd probably put them in like B, C tier, somewhere like that at the moment. Because it's hard, in comparison to some of the other teams we've got here, it's hard to put them much higher.
I think I agree with you. I mean, we're not hating on iDrop. We love iDrop here.
Right.
But iDrop, I think his best, I've got the sheet. I think his best where do you think his best Grands placement is?
I think it's the 7th with
Savage and Tayson.
Yeah,
it's that
7th.
One.
And, he's been competing for, 7th with iDrop and Mappy, right? And he's been he's been around since almost the first FNCS qualified. So, historically not the most proficient Grands player in there. So I feel like we're fair putting him into that position. Now, I will say, though, Sky and Scroll, on the other hand, have been insanely good over the last year. Really impressive.
Right.
Made every single Grands. They just popped onto the scene. And now, again, this season, they've looked even better. So if there's any chance for iDrop to win a Grands, I think this is looking like some of the best potential I would say he's had coming into it, full stop.
Is this
I'm not going to put him in an S tier.
Is this iDrop's best team going into a Grand Finals?
Let me see.
On paper, no, because you have the Tayson one, but...
I mean,
was that a better team?
With the Tayson one, it was Tayson and Savage. And obviously, Tayson at the time was Tayson. And it was like... prime Tayson talking about here. But in terms of like the general, like the actual team, because even though like even that season, I feel like they weren't like performing crazy that season. It was just people going, yeah, but it's Tayson and Savage, so eventually it's gonna click, right?
That's valid. That's valid.
Which is valid.
That's good analysis.
I was one of those people saying that, right? Like I remember it very well. I was one of those people saying it. But in terms of just how the team works and fits and like the level that Sky and Scroll have been playing at, yeah, do you think there's an argument that this is iDrop's best team going into a final?
I think that's really valid. I actually think that's really valid. I think this is the one I've been the most impressed with generally. When you look at teams, and I'm looking back through their history, I say like iDrop and Mappy, for example, in Chapter 4, like they were never a team that grabbed my attention in any way. Like I feel like a lot of times you have teams who just do something in a season and you go, ooh, I should watch this team. There's just this big moment where it's not anything in particular. You just they do something and you're like, I need to watch out for this team. And I've not really had that with any of iDrop's teams historically until this season. So I'm going to say yes.
Right. Okay. I feel like I agree with you, Harry. I think a B tier is like a good starting point for this team.
Yeah, and the last point I want to make is the Grands map is looking very good for them at the moment in EU. You know, you've got contested Kappa, contested Hopeful Heights, and even if, say, for example, Queasy goes back to Seaport, that's another spot where they can just go in third party from their split, right? So I feel like the Grands map is looking really good for them, for this to be iDrop and Sky and Scroll's best season ever.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think we put them in B tier for now, and then we sort of like evaluate. I think they definitely should be respected as a contender. The situation looks good. I think it's just the historical performance that it makes it hard to push them over the edge there. Yeah. I agree with you guys on that one. Over to an NA team then. Our next team here. Vidil, Cooper, and Sphinx. They have been on fire in NA. As on fire as anyone can be, considering you can't win an event with Peterbot in the lobby, right? Every single time, I watch a set lobby final in NA, Vidil, Cooper, and Sphinx are on the low ground. They're in like the top 3. They're giving Peterbot somewhat of a run for their money. Is this team the best contender in NA right now? And where would you rank them currently?
So as an avid NA watcher, I will actually say I've actually been watching some NA. It is really boring, I will add. The groups have just made me snooze. I just unbelievably, I must add. But it is exciting to watch this team, I will say. They look really solid. They do look like, a team where you grab 2 mechanical players and a good IGL. And I've always thought this was a good low ground strategy, right? Like I go back to chapter 2 and I think you see guys like, Vidil when he was playing with, like Reason and all this kind of stuff. And no, really, when you're like, oh, they're just the most mechanical players of all time at that moment. I always thought surely a low ground play style is just the way that these guys should succeed. Their mechanics, their box fighting ability, put them on low, they just cook. And I swear, I'm not going to say we never have seen that back then, because I think that's not necessarily true. But I always just thought that was a really successful formula. And now I think this team really personifies that, where you put them on low, you got Cooper and Vidil who can just frag out, absolutely poo on anyone on low ground, and you're just seeing a ton of success. So I think the team composition structure makes a ton of sense. They're a great team. It's working out, which is great to see to start with. But they're not going to win. So can you put them anywhere outside of D? Can any NA team not be a D if Peterbot's in the team?
No. I feel like you're thinking this wrong. I think you're thinking about this.
No. It's hyperbole. Yeah.
Okay.
No. I'm putting them in an A. I think they're an A tier team there. I do believe they're probably the second or the best chance to win that is not Peterbot's team. Out of everyone I've seen, everyone else seems a little too shaky. These guys seem really locked in.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree for the most part with everything you said, right? Like, I think it's funny because Vidil, we talk about Vidil, the biggest problem Vidil had was when he played with Reason is he didn't play the game. He never touched the game. He still made Grands, he still made Globals, he was still just that guy. And then playing with 2 players who are putting in effort, I mean, they're still top of the game, both players who... Well, obviously, Cooper winning globals and Sphinx making last global championship, top players on NA. It's the best situation he could have put himself in. And again, uncontested Mass Meadows, which I feel like as a POI is really going under the radar as a good POI because on EU, obviously, a team we'll talk about later on, Janice, Noah, and Chap landing there, is like, it's got everything you need. The access to Surge is really easy. Obviously, the way they play, probably less we talk about that, the better at the moment. But the actual way they play the game, like, as in once you get into endgames you talked about, right, it is just clean to watch. And I feel like they are going to be a team that I wouldn't be surprised if after day 1 they're in first place. Like, Peterbot just has somehow, they just have like a slightly worse day 1. Doesn't mean I don't think Peterbot's going to win, and we'll get on to talk about them later on, but it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if these guys were in first place going out of day 1 into day 2. So yeah, for me, A tier is perfect for me as well.
Just to quickly add one thing to what you said there, it's interesting that obviously Vidil, you said he's not been playing the game a ton. Cooper was very similar. Last year, I don't think was his highest motivation year. Now it seems like you've got 2 players who are like not the most motivated come together. They're motivated, they're playing. And I think, what you're seeing in terms of the success is just the result of that.
Yeah, the vibes on real in this trio.
Yeah.
Like, these guys like seem like they're having fun, which which can't be said for a lot of the other top teams in NA right now, it feels like.
Any of the other top teams? Is there anyone who's having fun?
I mean, if you're winning everything, you're bound to have fun, right? But like,
but
for everyone else, the vibes haven't been as fun. I feel like the big thing here that is really interesting as a story, it's kind of a shame because of the whole Peterbot cold ritual cloud. But like Vidil doing as well as he's doing on NA is exactly what we needed from our EU boys last year that we didn't get. And it's kind of annoying me that like it's not going to be more of a story, because we absolutely should be taking this dub, because this is a massive dub. Because like when you look at it, right, Vidil obviously is a great player like you guys highlighted. But like Hooper and Sphinx weren't considered like two people that were going to build a team that would somewhat challenge Peterborough. Like they were good, they were considered obviously top players, but like before they picked up the deal, when they were trying out a couple different other people, it was like, yeah, this is going to be like a top 10 Grands team, but not like a contending team. They add Vidil. Vidil's playing out of his mind, and they are a contending team now. You mentioned like the Surge situation, and I respect you, Harry, for trying to brush over it. We are not brushing over that. There's some shady shit going on for the people listening who don't know, right? You know, last week there was some like Kinch numbers posted or something, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
And Vidil was at the top, and like, you know, naturally he was, you know, bragging, as everyone does when they find out they're top of the damage numbers. And Veno responds with a video essentially going, like, I wonder why you're number one in damage. And it's just a video of Vidil sat in a base, Surge trading, as we've seen many a times in the last year or so when compared to Fortnite. Is this one a problem based off of what you guys saw from that video? Is it a problem? And two, is there a Surge strategy ironclad enough to where like in Grands, if they've been relying on just trade and Surge, if those teams decide not to trade to them come Grands, or if something happens, or if they get, you know, shook off for whatever reason, are you then worried about this team and their chances to do well and get to end games as consistently as they have been?
So the first thing I want to say is you kind of missed the point that the deals from EU in NA, you've got to brush over it. You know, let him do whatever he needs to do. Let him do whatever he needs to do to win NA.
My bad. You're right.
But no, genuinely, I think, yeah, when you talk about like the whole trading thing, it's like, obviously everything, thoughts on the video is that it's very suspicious when you add the context behind it, that first of all, the Sphinx in Globals with Janice, like, you know, when obviously Janice at, what was the landing spot called to the left of,
it was Red Line Rig and Brutal, Battlegrounds.
Yeah. And they were
POI.
POI, yeah. So they were trading in Globals, and then you then look at the fact that it was Cooper who was trading with NPen, and it's NPen who's trading with Cooper again, and then you add the context behind it, and now you're like, this is getting a little bit sticky of a situation here, but it doesn't look good.
They just like the same side of the map. That's it. They just love that same area. It's just coincidental.
Yeah, it was really weird that MPen landed top left of the map and would rotate to middle of the map and trade Surge last chapter. It's just coincidence, right? Just have similar rotate paths.
It's comfortable there.
Yeah, it is. But no, I generally think...
Scenic spot, you know?
It's scenic. There's some nice water you can fish there. But no, generally, I think, yeah, it's a problem with the meta that we've already discussed many a time about the Shieldfish meta. It's... You're inviting these things, you know, it's the same with the Cacti meta, you're inviting these things. When you have infinite heals, the best strategy becomes to trade Surge with your infinite heals. It's just how it becomes, right? And it's kind of like, if you want to get rid of this, obviously you should ban people, don't get me wrong, I think people should get banned for this type of stuff, but if you can get concrete proof, you have to try, and I know Epic most of the time don't think this way, but you need to try and create metas which don't evolve into just trading metas. You have to try and like create those type of metas, and if you can't do that, you run into these type of problems. And when you talked about Mass Meadows, if they become reliant on it, is it a problem? I don't think so. I think Mass Meadows is a good enough spot that if you wanted to, you could utilize it to early rotate into other spots. You don't have to take the maze south. You can quick loot it, get all the metal, and you can rotate into other spots. You can play power positions elsewhere on the map. You can go third party other POIs elsewhere on the map. You can do a lot of things from Mass Meadows. It wouldn't be the biggest problem if they didn't trade Surge. My only worry is if, like, how what we're seeing trading Surge, how do you do that when it's a full North zone? Well, what do you do then? Like, do they have the plans that I'm talking about here? Like, I don't know, but we'll see. I hope that next meta, or maybe I don't really want to change it before Grands, but hopefully next meta it's something different from a infinite Shieldfish into infinite trading meta.
Yeah, it's not, the meta's not going to change in the next week, so I'm sure they'll be fine. There's basically my short answer.
Well, yeah, like without us getting into like a massive deep conversation about surge trading, I think part of the problem is like, it's like what you said, without the context of like there is potential relationships here and like a history of doing this, right? And you know, the problem with metas like this is that a lot of the time it's in your best interest to shoot at the same people, especially if you're in a spot where you can get infinite heals, right? And it's like the biggest problem with surge trading is and the reason why it's like in theory against the rules is when again there's like you've planned to do it, like there is an inherent like, hey, you go here, I'll go here, we both have infinite heals, we'll just shoot each other. But like you can end up in that end position without ever actually communicating that, right? Because like if you might land at your spot and it's like, well, my best option is to go to where the pond is and sit in a base and hope there's somebody there who I can just shoot at, right? Like there isn't that implicit like trust or relationship there, but obviously in this case there potentially might be. So yeah, it's always an interesting conversation. I'm with you guys though. I think putting these guys in the A tier as like a top contender in NA, I feel like this might be as good as it gets in NA as a contender right now.
One thing I just want to add, you know, do you think the conversation when Cooper and Sphinx were speaking to Vidil and they were like, hey, do you want to come to NA? Do you think they were like, hey, do you want to come to NA? We already know what we're doing for Surge. Like, you won't need to worry about it. You know, like, we got shooters set up. Doesn't matter where you drop. Come, we'll get you to end game. It's fine. You just need to frag out.
I mean, I'd like to hope not.
Yeah, I'd hope so. I'd like to hope. I'd very much like to
hope not. Yeah. I'd like to hope
I mean,
not.
the Germans have got Mass Meadows locked down on EU and on NA. They've got it locked down, don't worry.
I mean, maybe there is something there.
Yeah.
There is something there. On to the next team, though. Cammy, Seti, and Chari, they just qualified in Group 3 on Sunday. As of the time we're recording this, it's yesterday for us. And these guys, they won one of the games. They won, I believe, the 4th game of the day. They came very close in a couple other games. But that's not really the story here. The story is how they have started a European war.
I mean, yeah. It's there's a lot of detail you can go into, which doesn't even just include how they're going to do in grand finals. You know, the story of this weekend wasn't whether Cammy and Seti played well. It was the French versus Polish at Lost Lake. And the story of Group 2, then leading into Group 3. Of Group 2, it was Akira, Podesai, and Xwiz. They had on the map uncontested Lost Lake. They got surprise contested by one team. And then another team, Demus, Pix, and Darm, landed on the outskirts of Lost Lake. One game they were like North Lost Lake, one game they were South Lost Lake. And they were just third-partying the fight, just tagging them and tagging them and tagging them. And then you start to get the tweets. You get the M8 coach tweeting out that they've been paid to land there. And then you get the Podesai 6-minute video of all the proof of Cammy and Seti stream sniping and Q sniping. And then it leads into Darm, Pix, and Demus getting first place in the heat, winning last game, showing that they could just win no matter what. And Akira, Podesai, and Xwiz getting 45 points and not making out of heats. And then, obviously, day 2, as we're watching here, they win game 4, Cammy, Seti, and Chari, and then put the Poland versus France war kind of, at the moment, ends. Depending what happens in last chance, who knows? But at the moment, it's kind of ended. But that was the storyline in this weekend, and it kind of made it interesting to watch. It made it exciting. And you were saying about how NA was boring. This was the most interesting part of EU. This was the best part watching this.
Yeah, I think... one of the things that I think was really interesting about this was that I think if there is dodgy stuff, you know, we don't know if Cammy and Seti have sent their shooters, Demus and Pix over to you know do anything. It looks pretty suspicious, but you know you don't know for 100% fact. But I think if a team gets battered off spawn so bad that they lose basically 5-1, you know, you could say it was 4-1 and one game that they dipped. I think any dodginess should just be like we should forget about it. Like you guys just got like slapped about. Sorry.
That's always the problem, Reese, right? It's like if you're getting griefed, quote unquote, and it's by the team in like last, and it's like, they're just trolling the fuck out of you. Yeah. But if the team who's like quote unquote griefing you is just winning, like
beats you off spawn in 4 games, you disengage another game, and then win the whole tournament. And
it's a hard sell.
They had the second best.
Yeah.
They had the second best match history of every team in EU. They just did. They literally got like three 10+ kill games, all in the top 10, most in the top 5. A 17 kill win last game. Like they had by far the second best match history. Like it's just shown that it wasn't like, if you're my opinion on what I think's happened, I think they were contested at Pump Power already. So it's either contest Pump Power or in their head contest Lost Lake. So I'm guessing obviously it's all just guesswork. It's nothing 100%, but probably Cammy and Seti were like, look, you're contested at Pump Power, it's already grief enough. We can just give you the strats that we're beating Akira, Podosai, and XWeeze with at Lost Lake. Just go kill them off spawn. And that's basically it.
That's what I think happened.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And even on top of that, I think that decision, even if Kemi Seti and Jari had nothing to do with it, still makes more sense, because contesting pumped power is just a death sentence. Like there's not enough loot there. It's just a horrific spot to fight in. There's enough metal and enough hard mats that the fights can drag out. Third parties come in. It's just not a good spot, right? But Woods, what the hell's it called? I always forget the appeal. Lost Lake. It's close enough, right? Fights are over pretty quick. The teams weren't third partying fast enough in most of the rounds. And then, even though they got rubbish loot, most of the time what they did is they finished that fight, and within like 90 seconds of the game starting to like 2 minutes, they're rotating out. They're looting all the stuff around. So any of the teams around them who were pushing into third party, they're already gone. Right? So it's like they avoided the third party, but had they still landed at Pump Power, there's almost no way they could have done that quickly. And then they rotated back to Pump Power to go and get their metal some games and finish off looting and stuff like that. So like their game plan, even though it could have been quote unquote grief, just made way more sense than what they would have been doing previously anyway. So, we're also not talking about Cammy and Seti, even though that's what we're meant to be doing.
I was going to wrap up by saying, I was going to say, all this analysis you guys have done have just set up the fact that all of this happened for Cammy and Seti to be uncon in the Major 1 finals.
Yes.
Which is why the analysis is still relevant here.
Yeah.
Now they're uncontested in the Major 1 finals because of all of that. And with them being uncontested in the Major 1 finals, how do you think they fare? Where do they rank as a contending team? Harry, I know when I spoke to you earlier in the season, you considered them the second best team in EU after Veno, Flixie, and Vico. Are they S-tier caliber? Are they one of the first names you expect to see up there winning FNCS this season?
It's a hard conversation because you look at their weekend and you just look at the placements. You go 3rd, 13th, 29th, 1st. You probably think they've had an okay weekend, but you add the context of in the 13th, I think of Seti blue screened. So that game's already a dud. And in the 29th, they've been keyed by Veno, Vico, and Flixie. So it's realistically, you have to add context to the actual placement they got, which is still, they ended up winning the next game and they qualified through it, right? I would be surprised, as we've already talked about, no matter when you're talking about surge tagging and sitting in surge bases in mid-map, uncontested at Lost Lake, I don't think there's any team that suits this meta more than Cammy and Seti, and then you add on Chari on top of it as well. So, but the one thing I'll say is, do I think they, A, get enough kills, or B, have the firepower enough to be in contention to win? Because as much as we'll get onto Veno, Vico, and Flixie and some of their pros and cons, the main con for Cammy and Seti and Cherry, they just don't get enough kills. And when you don't get enough kills in a format like this, you can generally have as consistent as a day as you like, but it doesn't matter because the big games, the pop-off games that Veno, Vico, and Flixie are going to have are going to matter way more. So, this is why, it's they're low S tier, high A tier. It's if I had to say, I probably would put them in A tier, but I'm not 100% sure.
So, I kind of share similar concerns, but one of the things I did find interesting, and Levin, you actually ended up pointing out in the broadcast as well, was that I have never in my life seen Cammy and Seti do a pre-edit play ever until this weekend. And when I saw that, I was like, what is this? Have they been learning from Demas and Pix? They're like, okay, for successful Polish teams, we need to actually do something, right? We need to make a play in endgame. We can't just try and play all our mats and be super safe. So to me, I'm maybe I'm putting the pieces together too much. I think they understand they need more elims. I think and a lot of their failures have been from games where they, a lot of their mid games are kind of shoddy, and a lot of teams like Veno and Flixie's teams, if you mess up your mid game, well, you just get a good refresh and you can then keep moving. But if you're a team that isn't as aggressive in end game, you're going to struggle to get a bunch of mats refreshed and then they kind of fizzle out. I think historically with Cammy and Seti, if they have a bad mid game, it's really hard to get a lot of points out of it. But in this scenario, when I see them trying to play more aggressive, I think, okay, I sound like I'm patronizing them a little bit, but I see, okay, they obviously understand what they need to do. I think one of my main concerns, now I haven't actually gone and watched the fight yet, but one of my main concerns was how easily they got rolled over by Vino's team.
Yeah, the broadcast kind of missed it, but it did seem quite quick. Like we sort of came in the back end of it.
And if the map stays the same, both are uncon, that's still a possibility come grand finals. And if they're in a position to win and it's close, Vino is going to push them if it's like come to the final game. We don't need to have a contest off spawn because they can just land at the drop spots and fight each other. And who's going to win in that fight? Like I'm putting it down to Vino 100% of the time. So when I look at the setup, I think it's really difficult for them to win. Just adding on everything on top of what Harry said. Now, do I think that doesn't mean they're an S tier team? Let me just look at the rest of the teams quickly before I make that decision.
we can readjust. We can readjust at the end.
We can readjust. Don't overthink it too much. What's your heart telling you?
My heart's telling me it's Kemi, Seti, and Nashari. Grand finals, putting them in S tier. You can't say that they're not up in that caliber. In particular, with the uncon placements they've had this season, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. It's like I think it would be doing them a disservice. Now, once we put other teams up there, I'd be happy to move them down because it's hard to see them win. And obviously, we're talking about winning here. We're talking about being the champions. But it's at the end of the day, it's still Kemi, Seti in a grands.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the Vino Vico Flixie fight because I saw that it was missed on the broadcast. I went back and watched it. So basically, all it was Vino Vico and Flixie got chili chugged all the way through Lost Lake, and because the way Cammy and Seti and Chari get their metal, they triple go to the gas station. They just went on the hill behind them. Cammy was in the open, and they just triple beamed him and killed him. That's why it was so quick. So they insta beamed him, then insta killed Chari. We're camping the card, and then Thomas keyed Seti as he was running away. So that's why it was such a quick fight. It wasn't really actually.
I feel like you got to save that for Major 1 finals because that would have definitely got them in the grands as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's
now
the
they're going to be looking for that.
There's some weird things because also there was the Tayson in one of the Div 1 finals. Tayson, Trulex, and Chicho got keyed by Cammy and Seti in the last game of the Div 1 finals. The same way that they got keyed by Vino, Vico, and Flixie. So it's all these strats they're just kind of showing each other. I don't really understand why.
Right.
I'm fine with putting them in S tier for now. My problem is every season I feel like I put them in S tier, and every season they just get a 3rd or a 4th, and then we move on. I just don't feel like any time it's that they're always close to winning, but I never feel like they're pushing themselves further. And I love Cammy and Seti, and obviously Chari is a great player as well. I think they're fantastic to watch and learn from. But it's just weird. It's just I just feel like something's missing. Maybe Chari is the missing piece, but I just feel like always there's something missing.
Yeah, Chari's performance today, or not today, this weekend will tell me a lot about this team's future. Because if he doesn't step up to be this crazy fragging force for them in end games when they're going for pre-edits and getting them loads of kills, then I'm sort of just going to be at the point I was at with Cammy and Seti towards the back end of last year, where it's they're going to do really good. You expect them to place really high, but calling them to win a season just gets hard. They've just not won in so long.
Yeah.
It was trios last time when they won, at least outside of invitation, of course, the LAN, right? It's a bit different on LAN, I feel like. But yeah, in these lobbies, it's hard for the reasons you guys are saying. It's definitely hard. I do think when you're thinking about EU, who's going to win and just looking at the lobby, I do think they have a solid claim to it. It's just I feel like there's maybe a couple others that maybe are just a bit stronger. I'm leaning more towards A for these guys, if I'm being honest. I feel like it's hard for them. I feel like from their spot, I'm curious. I've not gone back and watched the games from just yesterday, but I really wanted to, just for the fact that on certain zone pools, if it pulls north, right, and they're sitting and trading, there's not actually that many teams they're trading with a lot of the time. They're sort of relying on Veno's team to either make a base near them, or the Moss's team to come over, or if someone else is just coming to soft fight or something. It's weird. They don't have a lot of options there. And then when zones pull far, from what I was seeing at least beforehand, I didn't see what they did yesterday. A lot of the time they're completely just having to like you said, Reese, take these scuffed mid-game rotates where they're burning every single shield possible to get in a decent spot. And then fishing, which is okay, that's sort of what you do this season, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's the kind of thing where that doesn't work every game in a grand final lobby where like Venovico Fixie might just drop a 15 bomb.
Yeah,
You know?
they might do the same rotate and then wipe a trio and get refreshed,
Right.
and then
So it's like,
you know,
it's hard. It's hard. I'm leaning towards A, but if you guys have them S, I feel like we can
I
reestablish
agree.
I'll
it.
tell you what. Yeah, Harry said A, you said A. I'm saying
I thought his-
bottom of S. So let's put him
Okay.
at the top of A. Top of A.
Okay, we'll put Kamisei Ichari top of A for now. Okay, Aegis, Acorn, Poyo. Not sure if you guys saw. These guys obviously won a game yesterday in Group 3 of the FNCS, and Aegis posted the win reaction. And I should have got the video ready, but the win reaction was no reaction. And it was funny because the whole com was just like commenting, wow, the vibes on this trio are unreal. Like the energy after that win, you know, most people post their like wins in this format and it's like, let's fucking go, let's go. Like everyone's just screaming, like going crazy. It was literally like they won and not a word was said.
I've actually watched the video yet. I'm going to watch
so
it while
good.
Harry talks and not listen to a word he
It's
says.
so
Yeah,
good,
exactly.
bro.
It's weird because like you think on paper you replace Canada with Poyo based off last year, it'd be an upgrade on the trio. But for some reason it doesn't. And as you said, the vibes don't look as good. There's not really much. I don't know. I'm just not moved by them. I'm not sat here being like, wow, you know, you got Poyo who had the year he had last year, and you have Acorn and Aegis who are again two very, very good NA players. And then you just go into this year and you put them together and it's just nothing. I guess if Reese has just watched the reaction.
That's great. Someone goes, yes. And then no
I'm
one
pretty
else
sure
says
that's
anything.
Raz. I'm pretty sure that's just Raz, the coach, just going, yes. None of them said a word.
I mean, they could just
brilliant.
be so stoic and they know they're going to win grands. So they're like, this is just a stepping stone to their greatness.
I'd put them in B tier. I think they're a tier below. As we've talked about on the podcast many times, you split up two trios who could have contended to beat Peterbot, in my opinion, to make two worse trios.
100%.
And it's like neither team kind of came out on top, and yeah, I just think that at this point they're a worse trio than Vidal, Cooper, and Sphinx.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And, you know, it's like the Agers, Acorn, Canada made sense. The vibes were there. Obviously, Canada got dropped. The other team that's made part of that also just looks worse. So I'm 100% with you. I've watched like a little bit of NA this season. And when I have seen this team, similar to Harry, like I haven't been moved really whatsoever. And that tweet alone makes me think they may be a C tier team.
No. I think
It's
B's fair
interesting.
enough.
I'm torn on this trio because I don't know if I agree with you in that I think they did upgrade. Like, I don't think you make this, because you have to remember, this was initiated by them. Like, you mentioned, like, with Canada, the vibes and everything. Well, like, that was part of why they dropped Canada, because it's like, the vibes, it wasn't actually working, even though it maybe sounded like it was working to, like, the streaming ear, right? Like, you know, there was, like, clearly a problem there. And, like, I feel like they need, I don't know what they need. And that's why I'm a bit torn on them. Like, I don't know what needs to, like, change for things to click. I do think they're, like, they are more prepared or, like, more established when it comes to, like, a grand finals. Like, I feel good about them. Like, I'd expect these guys to top 4. And if they didn't, I think that'd be an underperformance. Like, they have still been doing, like, good in set lobbies when needed. You know, they came second in that first game in the group yesterday. Then they win the next game. They've done all right in set lobby finals that they've played in. Like, it's not like these guys have just been bad or underperformed, but there hasn't been anything inspiring, which is where I agree with you guys. Like, there's not been anything where, at least with like Vidal, Cooper, and Sphinx, they're like so relentlessly in every end game on low ground that you're kind of like, I could just see it. Like, I could see the win here, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like with these guys, there's not been anything yet where I've been like, okay, this is like, I think quality-wise and the setup of the trio makes sense. And it's like an FNCS winning trio. Just this season, I've not seen enough to feel like that's the way.
No, I have just looked at their placements because I was interested, because it's kind of like a feeling that they just don't feel like they can win. But to be fair, their set lobbies have been pretty good. Like, they came second in the first set lobby they played together, and then in eval they came fourth but didn't get a win. So the best team without a win. And And then
I think they came second in one of the games as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next one after that, they came second in another game than that one. And then in Heats, obviously, they won the second game. So they've kind of done everything that they need to do, right? But it's the same thing. It's like, it's just the feeling that they're just, I think you said it perfectly, where I just don't feel like they could, if someone said at the end of FNCS, right, like, I'm predicting Vidal, Cooper, and Sphinx to win, I'd be surprised, but I could get their reasoning behind it. Aegis, Acorn, and Poyo, like, I would just be so shocked if they won. But they might even be there's a world they're a better team consistency-wise. Like, they maybe have a more, like, a higher skill floor, you know. There's less like they're going to come, like, 15th or 10th or something like that. But
in those games, what are their kills like? Because one thing about Vidal, Cooper, and Sphinx that inspires me, and, like, is part of what I say when I see that spark, is, like, they have a lot of games where I feel like they're getting, like, double-digit kills, which, like, if you're contending with Peterbot, you need to be a team that can get double-digit wins in set lobbies. They
did get high kills in Heats. They got 13 and 10 in their second and first. In the eval before that, they got 14 kills, 3 kills, 6 kills, 9 kills. In the set lobby before that, they got 46 kills, which is like a 7 kill, 5 kill, 11 kill, 8 kill. Like, their match history in that set lobby is actually insane. It's the second with that was on Vidals. I don't know why I gave it on Vidals. Oh no, they got 12 kills, 9 kills, 10 kills, 6 kills. So it's still the same amount. They actually got more kills than Vidal.
I think you guys saying B is harsh. I think they're an A team. I think like yesterday when they in the game where they came second, and I was watching, and they like had made a rotate where they like wrapped north, right? And like they were a bit below on damage, and so like naturally you're a bit like, why are you wrapping if you're low on damage? You know, like that's like a, you know, you make that play when you've gotten a good amount of early damage, and, you know, you want to go dead side or whatever. And then they just like fought teams on dead side and just rolled through them. And I was a bit like, it reminded me of just like how actually good, when you're looking at like fighting quality, like Aegis and Poyo is insane. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that is insane. And if Poyo can be the Poyo, not just of last year, but like even the year before, right, when he was playing with Sphinx, like if he can be that Poyo where people forget, like in 2023, Poyo was like really like top of damage, not top of damage, but like he was always like top 3 in damage in every grands, I'm pretty sure. Like he was like way up there in kills and damage most of the time. I'm sure some more go back and check the Kinch stats, but I just remember him always being like really high up in damage in grand finals lobbies. Like I genuinely think this team is an A team. I think they're the level of Vidal, Cooper, and Sphinx. It's almost like that whole thing with like the vibes and everything. There's just not anything that's making you go, this is the team.
We need a term for that. We need like,
we do.
'Cause I said the same thing about iDrop. It's like, you know, when you're not moved, like we're not moved by them. We need like
I'm moved, but I'm not inspired.
Oh,
like we're
creating a new tier list. Why have we got S, A, B, C, and D? We need not moved, inspired, gonna win, you know?
That's genuinely, I'll change this next time. Yeah, I don't know, like, there's a tier above moved. Like, I am moved by them, but I'm not like, shaken. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I want to put them in A. I want to put them in A.
That's fair.
All right, Tayson, Trulex, and Chicho. Where do we put these guys? Where do we rank them?
I'm gonna let Harry start because I'm a bit torn. So
it's a weird. These guys, it's just a bit of a weird one because it's kind of we've gone from I'm moved but not moved enough. We're kind of in the same, but the EU tier now, because it's the same thing where now I could put more like reason behind this. I think their end games just still aren't good enough, and we talked about this last week. Where I think my biggest problem with Trulex teams is they are the best Surge team. You'll rarely ever see them below Surge. They are probably going to make 11 or 12 out of 12 end games. That is just a fact. That is what Trulex has been for 3 years. That's what Trulex will always be. But then the same point, Trulex will always just not have the best endgames. That is also part of the fact that he just doesn't have the best endgames. And the reason why is just, and to be honest, I don't know the reason why. They just can't get refreshes. There's been seasons where they've only played height and it hasn't looked good. There's been recent seasons where they've only played low or mid ground. It hasn't looked good. The only time it looked the best was when they had the med kits and they were playing the whole med kits, like the Trulex 6 med kits. You know, where you just go,
gimmick.
Yeah, the medkit gimmick, where he just goes into Storm with 6 medkits and just clutches a top 3 because of it. He goes in second moving or third moving with the medkits, and I don't know, it just feels weird. And The interesting thing to me is the way the EU meta around Foxy developed over the weeks, and I wonder how that's going to affect them. So basically, like, starting off, like, from what I watched, the week is like Trulex and Tayson and Chicho, they get all the hills in Foxy. They get any hill they like. Pick the hill, you get it. By the time it got to Group 3, the right hill was getting keyed, and the left hill was getting keyed, because it's solos on those hills. And if you're triple voiding on a solo, you can't hold the hill. It's impossible. Like, you have to give it up. So it's either you have to just take one hill, and then you miss out on Surge in certain zones, or you have to then risk losing both, but get more Surge from it. So I feel like they might run into a problem where teams are starting to realize that these hills aren't, like, you can still get up them if you have voids. Like, it's not it's impossible to get up them. So
it felt impossible near the start of the season, but it's not. It's definitely
not anymore. So I would be very interested to see that how that happens in grand finals with even higher quality players. But yeah, I don't know. There's just I think it's just the end game thing for me. I just can't put them higher than maybe even B tier. Because, like, are they the same tier, in my opinion, as Kami and Seti this season? Kami, Seti, Cherry?
I'll go as far as, I don't think they're the same tier as iDrop, Sky, and Scroll. I think they might want to see or do.
I agree with that. So I watched through some of their matches, and, you know, from the groups, I was like interested in what the stats were to start with, because I feel like if you slash stat someone, you know, it's a good way to just take a look at, like, who's doing what.
Look at his Kinch merchant.
Yeah, he's playing for Kinch Diamond Opens. Look at him go.
Exactly. Well, I am, but it doesn't matter if I'm playing for damage or not. That's unfortunate, right? And the thing that shocked me about the groups was, so you look at the damage ratios to start with, right? And you see Trulex is like 1.06, but he's not trading Surge, right? I've not actually watched, but I don't think he's the one in the towers. I can't remember, right? Tayson's like 1.62, then Chicho's like a 2 times damage ratio. Like, that's what you would expect in terms of ratios. But in terms of elims, like, Tayson got 3 elims in 5 games. Or in the games they played. Sorry, I can't remember how many they ended up playing through. Chicho got 10, and then Tayson got 6, right? And I watched the end games that some of they played, and it's like their mid games are so good. Like I said, the Surge, positionings, it's like you have 2 really smart players in Trulex and Tayson. It's like your mid game is gonna be good. Like, even if the hills get keyed, they'll adapt, they'll come with strats. I'm really in no way concerned about the mid game. But one of the notes I took on their end game was literally just shit height retakes. And it was one of the games. Obviously, I think there was a no. I think Tayson ended up dropped on because someone masked above him and just like one pumped him or something. I think he posted a clip of it as well. But like, I watched all 3 players try to retake height, and it was so uncoordinated.
Yeah,
it was a mess. They were just like, I think Trulex died, Chicho died, and Tayson died. It was like all individually at the same time. In the one match I ended up watching there. And what's interesting is that one game, their low ground and mid ground was really good, because you have Trulex who's tarping, and whenever he's not tarping or doing anything, Tayson is like instinctually taken over.
Right.
But and it's really nice to see that dynamic when they're tarping like that. But because both of them are doing that, it's like you've just got Chicho fragging at the back. You know, it's like rather than having one person just running and tarping, getting you in positions, you've got 1.5, which means you have 1.5 people at the back as well, rather than having one person tarping, 2 people fragging. So that's one of the things I've seen in their end game, where it's like the refreshes are just not coming out at all. And a lot of the elims they go for are extremely safe. So, you know, we're talking about people going for pre-edits, getting in close, getting refreshes. A lot of their elims are just spraying, you know, like get a good position, spray, get front side, spray back. But one of the funny issues I've seen with that is just they run out of ammo a lot. And you run out of ammo a lot, in particular when Foxy has like 7 ammo crates or something like that. Your fighting style is then keep distance, spray, get kills. You're not getting ammo refreshed. You're not getting kills refreshed. So it's like, that's why I just keep seeing them fizzle out over and over again in endgame there. So I think that's a solvable problem. Get aggressive, get closer to teams, try get refreshes earlier in that late mid game, maybe start a moving zone or something like that. Get you ammo to get you mats, keep you going. But it just seems like that's been the same kind of consistent thing we've seen against like Trulex and Chicho for a long time anyway. And will that ever change? I'm not sure. So yeah, C tier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. It's a weird one, because it's hard for me to see them, like, who's more likely to win? Tayson, Trulex, Chicho, iDrop, Sky, and Scroll? I don't know. I just see them on the same tier, but for completely different reasons. I can understand you putting them in C tier. I just think the consistency of Taste and Trulex and Chicho's surge and the way they're going to be able to get to consistent endgames will just put them in the conversation, right? Even if they don't get the best endgames. And I think iDrop, Sky, and Scroll will probably have a harder time getting surge, but their endgames might be better. I feel like they're going to be placed in 1 or 2 places difference. I don't think there is in my opinion, maybe a tier difference between them. I think they have the same amount of pros and cons between them, but for different reasons.
I think this is just a team that places 3rd or 4th. Like,
yes.
I think it'd be really hard for them to win. I think you just look at like the composition of the team, the consistency they have in mid games, and then the kind of flops in end games as such. I just think this is a 3rd or 4th team.
Yeah. So like the thing is, right, is naturally every team here is that, right? Like almost every team. Like that's like the idea, right? All these teams are a team that are comfortably going to be in that like top 6 or 5 or whatever, right? When I'm rating people on their chances to win and like, do they have enough to get the win? But you're kind of right, Harry, in that like, maybe it's not a whole tier below iDrop and Sky and Scroll, but I also just now I'm rethinking how I feel about iDrop, Sky and Scroll as like a winner, like being able to win the 7 series. I'll put them in B for now. You've swayed me a bit, Harry, but we might come back to that one.
Yeah, we'll come back to it. There's a couple here we probably need to.
All right, Muzz, Rise, and Yapko. I'm very curious if you guys have thoughts about these guys. Obviously, these guys made it through on Group 2 on Saturday. They won the 2nd game of the day. I mean, this is a team that's had a kind of a quiet uptick in form to where like there's a bunch of other teams on NA that I think are more on people's radars. But when it comes to like just recent performances, I feel like these guys have looked absolutely top.
Yeah, I mean, it's sadly another one of these teams. We'll talk about loads for every NA team. It's like, if there was one trio that wasn't here, NA would be so exciting. And people would be talking about all these trios, We have another EU player over in NA performing insanely well, who, if you watch him play and watch how NA players think about Yapko, he's seen as one of the best players on the region, which,
they love him.
If you've got Yapko in EU, he's probably in some tier 2, tier 3 team, and it's like, he's doing decent, but he's not in conversations to win FNCS, so it's really good for him. But yeah, I just feel like this is just a combination of players who are just sleeper picks. Muzz, someone who probably isn't rated as highly as he could be, like an insane fighter. Rise, someone who's, again, been an incredible IGL for a long time, had been very close to a lot of FNCS wins with the Yomzo. And then you got Yapko, who on EU is probably not rated as highly as he should be. And the performances have just been very, very good, coming 2nd and 3rd in most weekly finals in groups, winning game 2. And it just seems like they've kind of got everything they need to have a good Grands. Obviously, winning is obviously a different conversation on NA, but this is a very exciting team to watch. Landing somewhere where also not many teams landing, down at the bridge at Shattered Slabs, right? The Shattered Slabs, sorry, I've said that twice this weekend. Shattered Span. So... yeah,
I think say Shattered Span. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, no, I would. I think to me right now, if I'm just looking at them, I think they probably have to be in B tier. But I wouldn't be surprised if you guys said A tier, because I think they are about the same chance of winning as Canada's team and as Acorn's team.
So I haven't watched the team that much to be honest, this season. Because, again, NA, but I know enough about each of the 3 individual players to say, like, team composition makes sense. I don't think this team will struggle with Surge all that much. One of the things that I was really impressed with Yapko from the Global Championships when he played with Swizzy was, like, I thought he's not the same caliber of player by any means as Swizzy.
Yeah.
Yet, you look at the stats, they'd tell you otherwise. And, of course, I'm a stats merchant. He was
keeping up with Swizzy.
He was keeping up, but his AR aim in particular is honestly one of the best that I've seen. If you watch him, he is hitting shot after shot after shot, ADS. So I'm not necessarily all that concerned about their surge. Looking at their match histories, there was only one game out of they only played one Div 1 Cup final together, because obviously they were playing with Clicks before that. And only one of those games, they ended up not being like a top 10-ish. They dropped a bunch of double-digit elim games in that. And then obviously in the group stage, they only played 2 games. And both of those are really good games as well. So Everything I'm seeing for them looks good. You know, I can't really honestly add much more to that because I haven't watched into in depth on NA yet, but they look like a very promising team.
These guys will be like Vidal Cooper and Sphinx in that they will be in every endgame. They'll be in like 12 out of 12 endgames. Like they have a really consistent plan. They have a really good spot in Shattered. You are making me like hard think this Shattered Span.
Yeah, Shattered Span, yeah.
Yeah. And like, again, you know, when I've spoken to Rise about his trio, he's obviously feeling very confident, which, you know, I guess is great after like coming out of the situation with Clicks where like there just seemed to be like really bad vibes and they were just kind of mid. But the way they speak about Yapko, like you sort of highlighted, Harry, again, we need to start taking our dubs more.
Yeah.
Our EU dubs. Because they're talking about Yapko like he's like that guy, which from when I've watched him, he's been that guy. Like he is performing unbelievably good. Yapko is now like the Fortnite equivalent of like a player in football who like is in the Premier League and they're just like average. And then like they go to like Italy or something and just bang in 40 goals. And you're like, hold on a minute. You weren't fucking doing that for Crystal Palace, lad. Like, what the fuck? Like where did this come from, bro? Like,
it's not a good time to make a Kanye joke, but you know, Kanye scores on wheelchair basketball team. Is that the kind of equivalent we're talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not that extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, watching him now. Funnily enough, it makes me want to go back and watch when, even though I literally don't think we can, because unless they post it on YouTube. But I want to go back and watch when he tried out with Cammy and Say, and like, why did it not work? Because like, the way he's playing, you would have just thought that would have just worked to them and things would have been great.
There's been so many clips I've watched of like NA pros. I think it was one of Clicks where they've been like shit on like 2v1, and they're like, oh, it's Yapko. And it's like an expectation now. Right? Like, Yapko's like the same as Peter, but it's like, oh, it's just Yapko. It's just what he does. It's like, this is not the player I watched for 3 years on EU. Like,
is this what happens when just EU players go over? Because like,
sadly, not last chapter.
Well, of course, but like, you know, Vidal was obviously a tier 1 player in EU, but he's not most of the time on a team where you'd say, oh yeah, he's poised to win FNCS. But now you're like, okay, he's up there and one of the best. Maybe it's obviously he wasn't grinding, sticking with like just German speaking team, blah blah blah. Same with Yapko, the exact same story's coming up, but we're like, he's a top contender, one of the best on the region all of a sudden, you know?
Right.
We should be sending our best over there, see what happens.
Well, I mean,
we thought we did.
People forget though that in Major 3, day 1, Venno was the best player in that Grants.
Yeah,
true, yeah.
Right, you know, day 1, he was on stop. Was it day 1? Was it Major 3 or Major 2?
It was Major 3 with Clicks, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And then
because Major 2 was okay, cool. Yeah, but yeah, people forget that. Like Major 1, he like people remember like he had like the crazy clutches and people. My whole time I was just, oh my god, Venno, how is this real? So you know when we send our best talent there, they do have good performances. You know, sometimes. Anyway, let's not get too stuck on that before the NA fans. All the NA fans were like flaming you lot last week, by the way. I say you lot. Like, I'm like separate from it, you know.
I wasn't here, guys. I wasn't here, guys.
It was mostly Boop, a bit of Harry, mostly Boop. They were all just like, mate, I just can't listen to Boop talk about NA anymore. I'm like, you know what? I can't either. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
That's why he's not here.
Yeah.
We said, fuck that guy.
Muzz, Rise, and Yapko. I fear we're going to end this list and like every NA team except for one's going to be an A tier. But that's kind of how I feel about all the NA teams. Like I feel like they're all so close and all really good. I want to put them in A. But where do you stand, Harry? You don't agree?
No, about you saying all are going to be an A. I think we'll get to a conversation where I feel like there might be a team above or below, which isn't Peterbot. But I do agree these are A at the moment.
No, okay. Yeah, no, I feel like I know which team you're talking about, but maybe I don't. But we'll get there. Muzz, Rise, Yapko, for now, I'm going to put them in A. Behind Aegis, Acorn, Poyo, I think is like a nice spot for them. Venno, Vico, Flixie is the next team to discuss. Is this our first S team? Do you guys think these guys are the strongest competitors to win FNCS in EU this season?
Yes.
Undoubtedly, in my eyes, out of everything I've watched so far. You know, when I was watching through the groups, there's a lot of times where I'm watching them make plays and I'm like, you know, this position looks a little rough. You know, there was one game where they were fighting in Storm for a long time at like the top left. And I think that was the team where I think that was the first game maybe where they came second. And I thought, man, they're spending a long time here. They weren't looking that good, and then they rotated back to their drop spot. And there was another team third party them in there. They rotated in for loot as well. And at this point, the zone's pulling more and more and more south as time goes on. It's like fourth zone, and they're almost still at the top of the map, or third zone around that time. And I'm sitting there going, okay, they might have a lot of surge because they've fought people here, which is good, but they have a long way to go. Full south. They're going to end on the max congested side as well. And then we didn't see them on the broadcast for like 2 or 3 minutes, and all of a sudden they're just in a god spot, and they get 3 more kills in zone, 150 cat mats, way above surge, and then they come second that game. And I was like, that game in particular I watched, and I thought, okay, even given like a non-perfect scenario, these guys can work their way out of it. And that is not a skill that a lot of teams can have at this level, and especially without dying. Because one thing I kept noticing about these guys is it's like, you knock one of them, and they're going to hit you to 10 HP or something, one of your teammates, and almost always they'll double res. Like the amount of times they double res this weekend and without losing a member of the team was insane. It's like it's impossible to kill one of them because the other two can always get damage back on you and then double res before you can like continue the pressure up again. Which is one of the most valuable skills I've ever seen in a team. So yeah, I mean, that alone, I just think it really, really impressed me this weekend. And obviously, on top of all of their amazing placements they've had, all the other awards we could give this team, I just think that there's no way they're not the best team in the region.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things I can say. Like, I'll start with like some of the maybe concerns you have with a team like this, because I don't think they're perfect. Right, you talked about it, and you talked about the double reses. It's funny because I was laughing about it because there are 2 games, and it was the same team as the Italian team, Zara, who is keying them, and they tried, they knocked one, and you're like, we're in a 3v2 against the best team in the lobby, and they just couldn't take the wall. They just can't take the wall because you've got even double German, and you've got Vino's playing. It's like they just can't take the
mate.
Yeah, it's just full 0. They can't take the wall. But the conversation to be had is, are there just too many situations where they're ending up maybe not scuffed, but it gets a bit chaotic? They've been knocked on Island in one of the games. They got knocked in, as you said, in Storm in one of the games. They were also in a lot of endgames solo or duo clutching, which I think if you're a team who's trying to win FNCS, you can't be doing stuff like that. You can't have so many games in endgame which feel chaotic, where you're nearly just ending up in situations where you're having to solo or duo clutch. Even in the game we're watching, the win, they nearly got 1v3'd, and there is a chance they could have been 1v3'd in this endgame. It was like half a second before I think it's Skyjump or Mumsy could have got the last shot off, right? So there are some concerns that for how good their raw mechanical skill is, the games can become a little bit too chaotic at times. However, they are by far the best team on the region. The games they have where it all comes together, even when it doesn't all come together, just the sheer amount of kills, the points they get every single game. And then these are games, as I said, which were chaotic. It's like they got 40 kills in 3 games, right? And that is insane in a set lobby. And it's like, if they're just not having some of these scuffed early mid games, or dying on Island, or things like, or getting close to dying to the boss on Island. I saw one of the games they were getting cracked by a bunch. It's like, they're just going to get 25 kills, 20 kills a game easily because of the way they play and how aggressive they are. Like, we're just watching here for the audio listeners, we're watching their win. It's just Vico's jumping into a tarp of a trio and trying to kill them just to get extra points. It's like the raw mechanical skill I don't think we've seen on an EU trio in so long, or an EU team in so long. Because usually, obviously, the IGL and Fragger. And I just think that alone, plus the best landing spot, plus the options they have from Flooded Frogs to be able to play for early surge and play aggressive from that, which we saw this weekend as well. I just think they're set up for maybe not historic run, but I would be surprised, unless things go drastically wrong, I'd be surprised if they didn't win this weekend.
I'm not as concerned about what you just said, because when I've seen them fight to start with, they choose them in good positions, right? Like, the fights we talked about where I said where they go top left, they are the ones controlling the pace of that fight. And the zone's pulling far. Other teams are not going to rotate into third party from that position. They time it well. When you look at fighting on Island, it's like Island third parties are kind of odd because you usually have one team who's up there, or 2 teams who's up there, and you're not usually seeing other teams just like fly on up to third party a fight that's up there. So even if in that situation someone dies and they get to res without having to reboot them. I'm not really that concerned about that at all because they're choosing fights in good locations where it's harder to get third-partied, so it's harder for them to lose. So it's just straight 3-on-3s for the most part. Secondly, if you're a team who's getting high elims, it's almost impossible to have something that doesn't look a little messy or unstructured because, the structured teams look good because they're thinking about it. Okay, we're going to this position end game here. We tarp ahead, we get to this spot, Whereas if you're an aggressive team, you're naturally pulling yourselves out of those really good positions and putting yourself in positions where you get refreshes and get mats. The talent of a team like this and the allure of a team like this is that they can put themselves in those positions and not milk and die. Obviously, sometimes that's going to lead you to lose a player, but that's when you clutch up second, thirds with 10, 15 elims or something like that already. And sure, you've milked the win, but in a grand finals, that's not utterly what matters the most. And then on top of that, the 1v3, almost getting 1v3 at the end was pretty funny, but I also think it's just like, hey, we've won. Yeah, I'm sure the vibes were just chilling at that point. I think in grand finals, I don't think they do that. Maybe, I don't know. I need to go back and watch it. Maybe I'm just giving them too much credit for that.
Yeah, I went back and watched it. I wonder if it was similar to what we saw in Middle East. They were trying to play more games because Vino tweeted afterwards saying we should have played the full 5 games. We should have won. But no, in general, I was just saying the concerns because it's I don't think they're the perfect team. I don't think they are completely perfect, but I do think the pop-off games, the amount of kills they're getting, the fact they're going to be going island a bunch, just how stacked they're going to be going into endgame, even if they are playing a duo, they are just going to get enough points from those scuff games, as you talked about, to be winning. I still think they are going to win. I still think they are the best team in EU, for sure.
Bloody hell, I can't get a word in with you lots, mate. What can I say now? You've bloody said
you're
everything.
The host.
I mean,
you're the host. Mate, you're hosting.
Yeah, I guess I should. Yeah, no, I shouldn't speak. Who cares about what the host is saying?
Tell us what you think.
No, genuinely, no. But I was saying that because I think you guys summed it up near perfectly. You said everything there is to say really about these guys. I think they just get so many kills so consistently that you just can't beat them. It's
give us your opinion on the next team then, right?
I'm not done yet. I will try.
I'm just saying.
He's already cut you off. He's already had enough point.
I am a talker. I will still find a way to talk. That's what I get paid to do. What I will say to sort of add to what you guys have said and maybe give a differing POV on it is when you look at the fighting of this team, individually, when you have that much of an advantage, it's a risk you're willing to take. And you mentioned clutching there, Harry, and you mentioned there's so many games where they're maybe a bit scuffed and someone's having to clutch. What you're saying in principle makes sense, right? And I feel like that was always the way we talked about success in EU FNCSs. But last year kind of just changed my mind on that in the sense of we saw a lot of great wins that kind of came down to clutching being important. I feel that's, you look at when Swizzy and Vanya won last year, of course they had a great game plan, solid strategy. They had a, read on the meta nobody knew, blah, 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 blah. But they also had 2 amazing clutches from Vanya and 1 amazing clutch from Swizzy that get them over the line. You look at Peterbot and all of his dominance of the best strategy, ironclad plan. He still had to clutch as a solo in a bunch of games for them to actually get the job done. Relying on clutches is obviously not ideal. You never want to be a team that guaranteed you're just going into an end game duo or solo, right? Which I don't think these guys are. I feel like it's just a bonus that even in those games where they are duo or maybe someone is solo, there's still a good chance to get really good points out of those games. I think this team is the best team in the EU right now and the clear favorite to win it all, especially because the next team we're going to talk about is Queasy, Swizzy, and Moustache.
Quick question before we move on to Queasy's team. Do you think that Vico Flixie go island every game in Grands? Because that's obviously what we saw them do in group stages, and that coin was used to great effect in both Vico and Vino's hands.
No, they won't go for island every game. But on, they have certain, island pools where they will go for it every game.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
There's certain pools where they won't go for it. So, you see the game Queasy won in their group.
In Shogun.
That pool when it's in
The
Shogun,
Southwest.
like Veno ain't going for that. Like they're not
Makes
going for like those pools, but the pools that are like closer to them, I think they will go for near enough every single one if the early game allows for it, right? Like if they don't get stalled out, fighting around flooded.
The reason I ask was just because, you know, the more I've been watching the last 2 weeks, the more I've sat and I've thought, you know, at the start of the season, I feel like Island was really underrated. And now the more time goes on, it's just more and more people are just like, oh, maybe having a solo running around invisible is probably quite fucking good. So I'm predicting ahead to my grand finals video being, you know, very much so surrounding about this island. So it's been something I've been paying attention to. So
it's funny you say that because I think we talked about it on the last podcast, and maybe I spoke to you. Where it's like, it's not even just the coin. You get 2 to 3 zones where you don't have to build. You get to refarm. You get free surge. You get free rotation. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
you can do whatever you want.
360-degree surge. Yeah.
It's like you can basically pick whatever you want to do.
It is the win condition.
The coin is just the cherry on the top of everything else.
Right. The coin is what sort of like the coin is your insurance to guarantee a top 3. Because if you don't top 3 with the coin, you are just a wallet. Like you're literally invisible with infinite sprint, and you can't stay alive until there's 3 teams left. Like, come on, man! What the fuck are you doing? The island is incredibly busted for sure. When it's interesting you mention island because the next thing we're going to talk about, Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache, the island is a big part of their game plan as well. So again, for the audio listeners, Veno, Vico, Flixie in S tier, our first team in S tier, Queasy, Swizzy, Mustache. Now, I didn't realize until this morning when I woke up. Because my whole Twitter last night was completely not Fortnite and it was all Super Bowl. I didn't realize that Swizzy had tweeted that they will be landing at Kappa Kappa Factory until this morning. So these guys aren't going to be going to Seaport City where they've been landing all season. I'm guessing it was in response to the fact that Mumsy's trio qualified, Mumsy, Shakos, and Skyjump qualified in Group 3. And obviously those guys have been contesting against Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache of Spawn at Seaport for a lot of the season. And it's been fairly even, I think maybe even in the favor of Skyjump and Mumsy. I'm not sure what the current score is of Spawn. And so Queasy has preemptively left Seaport. They're like, nah, we're not landing Seaport. They opted to land Kappa Kappa Factory. Also, I guess in response to the fact that Vanya and them didn't qualify, so there was no real good team landing there yet. But after that, they are now contested because Cringe, Mappy, and Cade have decided they want to land Kappa Kappa Factory. So they're contested Kappa Kappa Factory. We've not seen them land there, play from there at all this season. This probably would have been another S tier team for me. Now I'm still like trying to evaluate how I feel about them and their chances as a contender.
First question I want to ask is, do you think they're actually landing Kappa Kappa, or do you think they're just doing this to just land Seaport? Do you think they don't care about like surprise conning or anything like that?
I don't see the point in surprise conning in Grands. Because you're just like, so outside of that first game, you like, where's the surprise? Do you know what I mean? Like the first game, they like, because think about for the way I see it at least, right, is 100% if you're Skyjump, Mumsy, and them, you're still preparing to be conned that first game.
Yeah.
Like, and from my experience of watching teams, like I've seen teams go into tournaments expecting to be conned by like people who like didn't even say they were gonna, like, do you know what I mean? Like people are like as a pro team, if there's a team in the lobby you know potentially likes to land your spot, like you're always like aware of it, especially if it's a team like Queasy's who like they were just conning you there the whole season. As soon as Skyjump jumps from the bus, they're going to be looking at who jumps up with them, if they go out in the same direction, and they're ready to fight off Spawn. Like, it's not like... And then the next 11 games, like, you're just fighting them off Spawn or what? Like, for me, it doesn't make sense for them to play these mind games. If they are playing the mind games and they're just going to go Seaport, for me, it's a bit just foolish. Like, you're not really doing anything. Like, that's how I see it, at least. But, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, like, if you're going to play mind games, you're going to land somewhere else. So, you know, you're saying, oh, I'm going to land Kappa Kappa, but really you obviously you're not going to con Vino, obviously, but like, you know, just say you do something like that, where then another team doesn't have that much of thought. And again, it is similar. Like, you're just trying to catch a team off guard who won't prep, but most of these teams will. For me, this contestation makes zero sense when you actually look at now the fact that Cade's here. I think they're hoping that Cringe, Mappy, and Cade don't con them, and that they actually get it uncon. But if you're contesting Kappa Kappa, it's infinitely worse than contesting Seaport. But both of them still suck to be contested at, in my eyes. Because, I dropped Sky and Scroll's whole strategy during groups was to have, I think it was Sky, was third partying in Seaport within 90 seconds of landing. So, he was there, and then the other teams are in. So if they're fighting in Seaport, they're getting third partied. If they're fighting down in Kappa Kappa, they're getting third partied by iDrop anyway, and there's other teams around, and you've got Blaha mixing up above you, which I don't know if they would really push in like that, but regardless of where they land in this situation, you're getting third partied by the teams around you. Mm-hmm. Where would you rather be third partied, Kappa Kappa or up at Seaport? For me, probably I'm saying Seaport because there's more ways you could split that, get a little bit more loot before the teams come in. Or is it better just a 50-50 straight of spawn at Kappa if you can, and then try and beat that fight out before you get third partied by the other teams? I mean, I don't really know. I'd probably say Seaport sounds way better for that, but maybe that's not the style that they want to play.
I mean, I think for them, it was just they wanted to get Kappa Kappa on con because it was funny. Yeah. The way it actually worked out was Cringe Mappy and Cade was actually contested by Gordetti, Joan, and Scary at Kappa Kappa. And then Queasy tweeted that, and then it was triple contested. And everyone was like, well, what are you doing? What's the plan? So obviously then Gordetti and them left, and Cringe Mappy and Cade are still there, obviously, right now. And if you know anything about Cringe Mappy and Cade this season, you watch them, they've landed everywhere on the map this season. In finals. They do not like to be contested in finals. This is something they try to avoid avidly. Contested Kappa Kappa. My hot take about Kappa, I just don't think it's being played well at all by any team. We are yet to see a team, obviously based on this map as well. No team who landed there qualified. Every team dudded from that spot. Hellfire struggled for Surge there. Vanyak struggled for Surge there. And it was contested in Group 3. And it kind of showed the weakness of it where not only do you have the iDrop split where they're going to rotate in, you have the Hopeful Heights and the Turtles that land below Hopeful Heights. There was a team, I think it was a Polish team. What they would do is they'd land on the Turtles with the elemental chest, the barrels and everything. And they literally loot them all, get God loot, cap shield, and just pad into Kappa. And they would be there like 60 seconds into the game. And it's like, you can't even finish the fight quick enough for it to be worthwhile. So I just think they're trying to get it uncontested. But yeah, I think it's unlike outside of landing spot stuff for Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache. Like, what do you guys think of them as like when it comes to just their performance and like how they're playing at the moment? Like what you saw from groups or the weeklies? Like what are you feeling about them?
I think like I said before, I think they would have been an S tier team for me. Like they're a team that I think the meta just makes so much sense for Queasy. Like, get him to endgame with Cat Mats. He's gonna play for height and he's gonna just win. You have a team that is playing for Island aggressively. Like, they are playing for a lot of Island pools. The sort of like inside, conversations that were taking place as Queasy was claiming he was gonna play for every Island pool, which is not possible, but he might think it's possible, and I'm not. Who am I to tell Queasy what is and isn't possible? Yeah. But in my eyes, it's not possible. But still, like he has a great read on the meta. The way they play the game this season has been really good. You have Swizzy and Mustache, who Mustache has a knack for winning these first majors of the year. Right, past couple of years he's done it. He's playing incredibly well as well. Like, I know Swizzy, I think, was a bit more instrumental in like the game they actually won when it comes to like damage and numbers, right? But generally, like from the games I've VOD reviewed, every time I'm like going to watch them, it's always Mustache leading kills, always Mustache leading damage. Like he's playing really well. This team is an FNCS winning team, and 100%. Uncon Seaport, I would have predicted them to win
over Rico Venoflexi if they were Uncon.
Neck and neck for me. Neck and neck for me.
I think that's valid. I think that's super valid. I wish we'd seen more of them in the groups. I would have actually liked to see how they played a little bit more on con, on fight, because obviously they've not struggled a lot, sorry, but they've been, conned a lot off spawn. I think what's really interesting between these three teams is, when we were doing the comp awards and we were arguing over who's EU player of the year, we didn't actually mention that the two people mainly fighting for that, Swizzy and Queasy, are now just playing together. So, it's like when you really think about off of the performances last year, two of the best players, two of the people we argued the most who are best in the region are playing together. You put it together with Mustache, who is literally like one of the most reliable fraggers in the world. Queasy Zero Ping apparently is just the best player ever. Like this is undefeated. They just seem undefeated. I really hope they get on code. Yeah,
You've wanted these guys since they've been 0 ping. Watch them fight.
Yeah.
Queasy is getting in box.
He's raising everyone.
You watch them fight.
I love it.
And it's like Swizzy and Mustache are like still back. Queasy's like pickaxing walls, and you're like, yo, chill, bro.
The first day, I think it was either an opens. I can't remember what it was. The first day they played 0 ping. I just remember him just being like, 0 ping is the easiest thing ever. All you do is just pre-edit all the time. And every single time I watch them, I'm like, I can see that now.
Yeah.
I really hope they get Uncon, because I would like a good fight for first. And I think this team and Vino's team is the two that would do it. Yeah.
So, to back up your point. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to be contested, so they are S for me. I don't think Cringe Kade and Mappy are ever contesting them there. It's just our Vaniac. The reason whether they're going to be S or not is Vaniac, Marius, and Pixie going to qualify? And that's the conversation. Because I don't think Cringe, Kade, and Mappy are ever contesting them. I think there's a 0% chance they're going to contest.
Yeah. So do Vanya, Pixie, and Marius qualify through last chance? My answer is no.
Ooh, producer Quartz just crying right now that you said that.
Yeah, he is.
I could hear him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm going to be wrong. I feel like last chance is just going to be one, so manic, like, and two, like I feel like Masters is just going to be too hard. Like, for you to like, I'm trying to remember back in the day when we first added reboot round stuff, because this is sort of like the most similar thing we have, I think, to like the OG reboot round. And I swear it was always just like 3 random teams and maybe like one good, like maybe one half decent team you recognize. But it was always just like 3 bumfuck random teams. They're like, all right, see you in Grand.
It wasn't tier 1s. It was like tier 2s and tier 3 teams. It wasn't like full random like tier 5 teams. It was
of course. Right,
It was like tier 2 to tier 3 teams where there would be everyone fighting for height and they just be the last team winning height. I remember vividly back in the old reboot round system where there was a team, I think it was like Catty, Jaggy, and some other. They lost 4 games off spawn, and then the 5th one, they won the game. They made the only game off spawn. They won. Catty, So there's like so many things like that can happen where people aren't going to dip from their spot because they're like, it's win or bust. What's the point of me going some shit spot? I need to contest. There's going to be so many random things happening that I agree. I just think there's going to be like, not 3 random teams, but 3 tier 2, tier 3 teams qualifying. I don't think it's going to be... I think there's a chance that Vaniac gets contested. To be honest, that sounds better for them based off their recent history. But so if going off that I don't think they're going to be contested, I would also put them in S tier.
I think you're missing a major point about reboot rad style games, is that someone old has to win one. That's like the gold standard. You know, you get like people who are aging out. You get like the Zates winning one back then when they were older than most people.
Zate's the only one I remember where it's like
Rojo won one. You know, it's like you know you got to check who's not qualled, who's like 22, 23, someone like that.
Are we gonna get like a pilot win in NA? Is that what's gonna happen?
Palazzo's qualling. I believe in my boy.
Something like that. Queasy, Swizzy, Mustache for me. S tier. Next team in EU. So when I was, it was Harry, but I agree with Harry.
I made the tier list.
When we were picking the teams, right? This last spot in EU was hard for me because it went to Janice, No Riley, and Chap, and that's the next team we're going to discuss as a contender. And I think they're the team that makes the most sense. I think you could argue that like Mixon's team has maybe been playing at a higher level recently. You could maybe argue, Demis, Pix, and Dom. I think you could argue in playing a higher level. But the problem with those guys, I feel like, is you're gonna run into the same thing of just like in terms of like winning pedigree, like those guys just haven't done it, and so like realistically, you're never predicting those guys to win. Whereas like even though we'll see how this conversation goes, there is a chance you're predicting like Janice, No Riley, and Chap to win in FNtasia.
If you're German.
Somewhat. I guess, yeah. Like, I don't know. It was weird. Let us know in the comment section if you guys would have had them here or not. But where do you guys rank Janice, No Riley, and Chap as FNTS contenders this season?
So, not great. Watching their games, Noah really is the MVP of this team, man.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Like, this guy is in prime form. Like, he's looking like a tier 1, top of the top. I was going to say top 5, but that's maybe a bit generous. You know, top 10 player on the region right now. Like, he carried his team on the back to qualify over this weekend. I'll be honest. It was a spectacular thing. I felt like we were in 2020 and 2021 again to see, and did I look at the stats? I feel like I pulled the stats up from the team and he was like hard carrying everything. I think Chap had like a lot of damage. I think Janus honestly was actually struggling this much in the groups. A lot of the games he ended up dying first. Stats aren't looking so good for him. I've got them here somewhere, but they weren't looking the finest. But like they just look like they're playing in 3 solos a lot of the time. It really doesn't look like they're really coordinated that well as a team. There's a lot of talent here, but I don't know. There's not a lot of team here.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you said about Noah, because I remember watching when Trios first came out, the first Trio Cash Cup, he played with Pink and Yapko, I think it was. And I remember watching that Cash Cup from Pink's POV, and I was like, wait, Noah's actually just doing everything. Like, he's actually just doing absolutely everything. And then went to OG season, where they did really well. I remember they were landing Agency, obviously had like the French beef for Agency. Into now, you're talking about Noah also just having insane form coming into this season. This is the second prime of Noah. We're getting him back, which is good to see. But yeah, I kind of just echo everything you just said there, Reese. It's like they just don't look that coordinated, and it's weird because we talked about Mass Meadows already. It's like it kind of has everything you need, but it feels like they're really slow leaving Mass Meadows. They're leaving by the time Second Zone appears. They're like over looting so much, and there's no surge by Second Zone appearing. Then Zone plays North, and they don't have plans for how they're going to rotate for like North pools, and they got a load of North pools in. On Twitter, Chance was complaining about it. He was like, of course, our heat gets all the North pools in. The first heat, they're all Mass Meadow pools. But
2025, by the way.
Yeah, 2025, we're still talking about zone pools. But
Yeah.
I think, yeah, everything you said is right. I don't know if they get everything they want, yeah, they could be in conversation for winning, which is why, like, when I was making the list of EU teams, I put them here because it's like, realistically, the caliber of players here, if everything does go right, they can just be in a conversation for it. But I think they're just a tier below the rest of the EU teams right now. I think they are our first C tier team.
Yeah, I think that's also fair. The one divisional cup they played, they were 16th. They ended up 8th here overall. So third on consistency. They didn't have a win.
Yeah.
Nothing I saw from them was particularly like FNCS winning in my eyes. Also, you just reminded me when you said that he played with Yapko. Pink's been over to NA. What do they think Pink's the GOAT over there? What's the opinion on Pink?
Sadly, he played with a washed mirror. So
fuck, damn. I was gonna say, what if he had the rep? They'd send over Yapko, and then we send over Noah. Jesus, they'd be like, oh, this guy's can beat Peterbot. That would be crazy,
We'd have the great trio.
I think Pink would have like Pink as an agile. If you could get him 2 good enough fraggers on NA, I think he'd cook. To be fair.
Yapko and Noah, get that trio back together, get him over there.
Would he? Low key, Pink would get better options maybe on NA as well. Maybe you think?
I remember he used to have the rep back in. I think it was in like chapter 2 that Pink used to have like insane rep that he was
chapter
like
3. Chapter 3. He was gonna go to. He almost went to NA to play with Clicks. People don't know. Yeah, he almost went to NA to play with Clicks.
Anyway, next trio.
Yeah,
I want to ask you first, Levin.
Malabuka Ping Woks.
What are your thoughts on them? What are your feelings on them?
I am moved.
Ooh.
And I'm
inspired?
Not just moved. I am inspired.
Oh!
No, I really like these guys. I really, really like these guys. It reminds me of watching Malabuka back in the day in like duos with Mustache. So where like it's not always the cleanest in endgames, but it just works. You don't want to be on their layer, because if you are royally screwed.
Yeah.
But it also reminds me a bit more of the cleanness of Malabuka in Major 1 last year, where they have like a great strat out of Night Shift. Like the way they play Night Shift is like sort of similar to how they used to play that fencing spot, where it's like there's so much loot at Night Shift and like barrels and stuff like that. They're like, they loot quick. If Bird's condo something, you run over to Bird. If Twinkle's condo something, you run over to Twinkle. Even if they're uncle, you just run over there and fight anyway because you're Malabuka, Woks, and Ping. You get your damage. You run back into Night Shift, get all your nice little shields that you've been saving. And then they like just will run dead side and like twiddle their thumbs until endgame and then get mad fraggy. And I'm like, yeah, I like this. Like, like this is exactly what I want to see from Malibuka. So I'm a big fan of these guys. It's weird because I don't know if I'm like I want to say S tier, but I feel like that's wrong. I feel like maybe they're like in a weird spot where it's like, for me, it's like a low S, high A, where they are. I don't know. I don't know what's going to be the problem for them in Grand. Like I'm curious to know what you guys think in terms of where they're lacking to be considered like a top team, or maybe you guys just have them as like a favorite as well. But where do you think things can go wrong for them? Because I'm not seeing it yet. I know something has to go wrong because otherwise they are just an S team.
I think they have a higher chance of winning than Queasy to win FNCS.
Oh, so you're with me. Oh, this is brilliant.
Yeah, I think they are. I'm more than moved. I could not be more moved.
Wait, what's above? We need a new layer above inspired here.
Yeah,
You're more than inspired.
I can't stop moving. Like it's
I am just horny. That's just what you are now. You know, like I am moved. I am inspired. I am just horny for this team right now. This
like,
is amazing.
I don't like the spot is just perfect from them. Like if you're gonna say what is a team that wants to land a spot apart from Vino, Vika, and Flixie, obviously we talked about, and we've already talked about like. Okay, how can they play for Surge? Like, playing aggressive early with loads of options. Vika, Vino, Flixie are the best ones. The second best is Malibu, Ping, and Wox, right? They are definitely the second best team for it. And a spot like Night Shift, we talked about on the last podcast, but loads of barrels, loads of loot, easy and quick to loot. Just go do whatever you want, come back, get your spare loot. Like, it is just the perfect spot for them. Now, listening to their comms is interesting because it doesn't feel like their comms, you know, when you said like the end games might get a bit chaotic, it does sound like it, you know, because it doesn't feel like they are the most coordinated at times, but I don't know. Like, I am just so moved. I just, this season, if I get their placements up quickly, I'm 9% sure it's just been good placement after good placement.
I'll hit you with them.
Yeah, tell me them.
In the 5 Div Cups, 15th, which was their worst to start with, 5th, 7th, 2nd, 4th. So they're, you know, unreal consistency. Yeah,
they're ramping up. And and a lot of them contested at Hopeful Heights. They only changed the night shift very recently, right? So, I don't know. I just sit here and I look at them, and obviously we have the question marks of a Queasy, whether they're contested or uncontested. And right now we don't know. Obviously, we're recording this before last chance. Anything can really happen, right?
Yeah.
But I did say I don't think they'll be contested, Queasy, but there is still the 1% chance there are. There's a 0% chance that Malibuka, Wox, and Ping are contested, and for me, that's enough for me to say they're just an S tier team. I think it is those 3 teams in the running for EU. I think it's just going to be those 3 teams at the top because the pop-off gains from Malibuka, Ping, and Wox are going to be enough. Bird at the moment's contested. Well, I mean, they'll be over there. Warriors Watch is contested. Like, I feel like they've got everything they need to have a good FNCS Grand Finals.
Let's do it. We'll put them in S. I'm happy. Reese, I don't even want to hear your opinion. Yeah. I do kind of want to hear your opinion, so talk. Tell me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, firstly, map is set up perfectly, kind of as Harry alluded to there. 2 contested drop spots south of them, and if you want to go even further south, which you don't want to, there's another team there. Like, freest surge for them of all time, it would seem like, in terms of third parties. I think the main thing, my main takeaway just when I watch these guys is I just... Wox and Pings in particular in endgame, if you're within a 1 tile radius of them, their box fighting skills are just unreal. And it's just this has been something I've been watching every single season. It's like, it's weird. They're a team that I've never really sat down, or players that I've never really sat down and be like, I'm going to analyze them, I'm going to go through, going to get like trends and stuff. But every single time I watch like a high elim game of them, which is very frequently because they just keep doing them, they are It's just a masterclass in fragging capabilities. So basically, I'm excited. I'm with you, boys. You guys have given them the highest regards of words I shall not repeat as a 31-year-old's Levens. But maybe we change that tier list up a little bit. You know, maybe that's not the words we use going forward. But
sorry, I got too excited. Clearly,
yeah. Post-analysis clarity is kicked in.
I wanted to quickly ask, are we doing it left to right order? Because after we do put everyone in, are we going to do left to right?
I kind of can't be asked to do it, but maybe we can. Maybe we can. If you feel like it's bad, we can.
No, it's fine. I'm just asking, so it's just...
all right, then. On to the next team. Shout out, if you've not watched Malibuka, Ping, and Wox, like, just go watch a game of them and you'll understand. It feels like we've all watched like the same VOD and so we're all just so moved, you know? But genuinely, go watch these guys. They're really, really good. Iyomzo, Batman Booga, and Clicks. Now, this is a team who, I don't know what the like real life comparison here is, but they just kept getting like forced down our throats of like, this is the team that's gonna rival Peterbot. Like, this is the one. Believe these guys can stop Peterbot. They're the one. They're the one. They're the one. Do you guys believe they are the one?
No.
No. But I mean,
I'm buying it.
Hello, Clicks updates. Can't wait to see this one on Twitter.
But I out of the NA teams we'll talk about, we've got 3 NA teams left to go through, right? I think Iyomzo, Batman Booga, and Clicks, they've had some insane, to be honest, the evals were, you know, that's what was hyping everyone up. You know, the evals are winning all the games, like, oh my god, look at them, look how they're doing. But it's like, are the evals going to be the thing that makes me feel much different? Because when I watched their group stage, and I remember watching their games, I'm like, yeah, they did get a couple of second places, and maybe you could say they were trying not to win and all that sort of stuff, but I don't know if I'm sat here like, oh my god, they are so clean. Do I think they're going to top 5? Obviously, you know, every team in here could top 5, right? Yeah, obviously, yes. They are a solid team, uncontested, Lost Lake. It's going to be easy to play, right? But do I think they are as good or like in conversation to like compete with Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual? I don't think so. I don't think they are in that conversation.
Yeah, I just I've never been moved, you know. I've not been moved by them at all at this point. You know, I haven't gone through a lot of the placements this year, but it's a kind of, because again, NA. So, you know, I take everything I say here with a grain of salt, as it is NA. I've watched a bit of Clicks' stream and watched them play a little bit, and I don't know. I don't have any good analysis. I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm just putting up front, but I have a feeling some of these players, like, you know, every time we hype up Clicks, doesn't win. Batman Booga was kind of similar last year. Obviously, you know, there's Poyo and Peterbot to contend against, but you know, we were talking about how Batman Booga and Rapid, they're looking like such a good contender to beat Peterbot and Poyo last year. Didn't happen. Obviously, they had a second, which was really good, but weren't able to beat it out then. Do I think they can do it this year or this season even? Nothing that I've seen has shown me that yet. No.
So I think the biggest like hurdle for these guys, and like the biggest thing to where it will determine just like what the ceiling of these guys is like when it comes to the actual grand finals, are they gonna move with that aura? Right?
Yeah.
Because I think if you're a fan of Clicks, which I know a lot of our listeners are, and so a lot of them are already like typing away at their hate comments, oh, you guys don't fucking watch NA, don't talk about my goat Click. Like, sure, if you've been watching these guys, I'm sure it's been amazing to watch, right? Because in open style formats, right, in play-ins and all of the qualifiers and stuff, they've been phenomenal. They have been the second best team in those types of tournaments, right? It's the reason why people are trying to put them on like Pete's level, or like at least as a team that can do that. If you've been watching them, the way Iyomzo's been playing is obviously very inspiring, right? Because he has been playing out of his mind, like individually a top 3 player in the region right now. Like the guy's been playing like crazy. So cool. They've had the aura outside of, you know, the big finals. When it comes to grand finals, when they get into those lobbies and those 12 games play out, are they going to move with that same aura? I am inclined to say no. Now, I still think that these guys are going to be really good and going to be a problem. I just wonder what happens like as we get deeper and deeper into the tournament and it's like super, super close. Like what I kind of envision happening in NA is like sort of the type of thing that's happened in like a lot of NAs in NA finals in history, where it's like, we're going to get to like game 11 and there's genuinely going to be like 4 or 5 teams in it. I genuinely still believe that, even with Pete. I just think the difference with Pete is that they will just go and win the last 2 games with like 15 bombs. And then it's going to be like the other teams like dispersing around of like, okay, who from the other teams is going to have like a good last couple games. And in that scenario, it's like, I think it's going to be hard for them. I think it's going to be hard for them to stand out above some of the other competitors in this lobby. I think they're an A team. From what I've seen, I genuinely think they're an A team. But very much in the same way as like some of the other A teams, like a Jose Compoyo and like a Rise Yapko, it's just hard to see them winning FNTS, and not even just their fault, just because of their competition.
Yeah. You know what's sad? I'm not even going to say it as a joke, but I just think they are probably the 4th best team on NA. And it's not even about Click's 4th, but in general, you just look at the teams, it just does look like they're going to finish 4th. Like, you look at it and you're like, I don't know, like, it just feels like that's the kind of same sort of way. And you are right, like, the whole aura thing about, like, not in just, like, using that analysis, but are they going to go key teams? Are they going to be that aggressive? Like, I just don't think they are going to do that same type of things. But yeah, I think they're an A-tier team for sure. I think a lot of NA teams are A-tier because I think, as we're going to get into, like, there's one team above all else, but the rest are about the same level. But yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, for me, A-tier, probably the fourth best team on the region. But
like, I think the thing with like the A-tier teams on NA is like, I think it's hard to argue any of them have been very clearly better than the other.
Yeah.
Like, people, I think, would make the argument of Vidil, Coop, and Sphinx just in terms of like pure results. I think Vidil, Coop, and Sphinx have like the second best results since they formed as like a team. But when you actually like go in game and like watch the Fortnite, like the other teams are playing like as good as those guys in a lot of the games. It's kind of indistinguishable between a lot of them. I'm really interested to see how the Grands plays out in that sense. And I sort of hope that this next team we talk about almost adds so that it makes things more interesting.
Yep.
But let's talk about them. Peterbot, Cold, Ritual. I'm just going to put them in S to start off with.
Can we make a new tier? Can we make an S plus plus or
S plus plus?
Yeah.
Okay. So it feels like this is the finals for them to lose, right? You know, like it's their finals to lose. Sorry, no, not the finals for them to lose, but like it feels like it's their. Yeah, I said that right. Like I didn't say that wrong, right?
You did.
It's their finals to lose. Yeah, it's their finals to lose. Is there a chance they lose?
There's always a chance.
There's always, it's Fortnite.
You're saying there's a chance. There's always a chance. No.
This
is be a big.
So this is the first season where Peterbot is going to be in contention to win, and he's not landing at a spot with a mythic weapon and medallion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need it now.
Is there anything? Is there anything that, right? Because remember, going into this year, that was the big thing a lot of people said, right? A lot of people said, hey, look, last year's success for Peterbot is down to obviously him being an unbelievable player, but he's also had the game and the meta be in a state that favors him, right? Like it goes hand in hand. Like he was the best player, but he also had the meta that supported his strength as the best player.
Mm-hmm.
We still have a medallion this season, and technically we do still have a mythic weapon, right? He's not going to have that mythic weapon in most games. He might have that medallion in a lot of the games, though. But it's not the same, right? It's not the same as like what people are saying before. Is there anything there, do you think, or not?
No.
I mean, well, what facts have we got at this moment to back it up? Like, if this was a new team, I've been down the road of saying Peterbot's not going to win. I've been down the road saying they weren't even going to win, get qualified globals.
Both of you have. I'm here with the two Peterbot deniers back last year.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically,
I'm all about the story.
Yeah, and you look at this season, they've won every single FNCS set lobby. They have won every single one. They're
about to have the perfect season. They won first game of groups. They played one game of groups. That's it.
What facts do we have to change their opinion that they're not just going to win Grands? Yes, you could say maybe somehow they struggle with Surge, or maybe they can't just take height like they're doing in this video. They can't just take height as freely as they did in game one. Maybe you could say some of these things. But then you just think about it and you're like, and I hate to say these type of things, it's just Peterbot. And I just hate it because it's not analysis, but like, it's just the things, and Cold and Ritual, all of them are putting in incredible shifts. And it's games like even game one. Peterbot, I remember early game in game one, Peterbot dies in a 3v3, dies instantly. They do the same thing as Vino, key over to the top left, dies. Cold just 1v3s. Cold kills 2 instantly and then go kill the solo. And it's like, the problem, like, when we had the Peterbot discussion back in the, like, in duos, was like, if they do get scuffed, or whether can Peterbot keep up with this performance? Obviously, Poyo was also playing incredibly, but now you have the second best player on the region, who has been the second best mechanical player on the region as Cold, who, if Peterbot's having an off game or not performing to the same level, Cold will bring that up. And to me, it's like, I know it's not the conversation you want to have. You want to have the conversation of what. We will get into, I want to get into conversation of what has to happen for them not to win. But it's just, there's too much proof for me not to say they're going to win.
So I've had the fortunate pleasure of getting to watch some of their games firsthand in the past couple of weeks. And watching it is it's jaw dropping. Like there was a game where Ritual dies in Magic Mosses. They're like fighting in Mosses, and it's like a storm fight or something. And you're watching Pete, and he just gets like 800 damage in like the space of 30 seconds. He doesn't actually get a kill. He just like keeps one banging these guys, and they just keep like coming towards him, and he just keeps one banging them, and he racks up like 800 damage in like 30 seconds. And all while this is happening, Cold 1v2s. And you're like, it's like, you know what I mean? You're like, they're like, what are you supposed to do? We're all talking here about like Peterbot. I'm pretty sure like the last like Eva, like Cold outdamned him, you know, like Cold is
Cold's on a run.
Cold is playing at a level that like, I really hope it doesn't just become like sort of what happened with Poyo, right? Where it's just like, yeah, but it's Peterbot. And like Cold right now is like right there. It's 1A and 1B right now in terms of the way they're playing, which is so scary for like, how can you watch this, like we're saying, and like think anything else? You know, it's just, they're both playing unbelievably. You know, the same thing we've said about Mustache, right? Where it's like he's, you know, been winning the first couple majors the past couple of years. Like Cold's been doing that as well, right? So, you know, he's always in form at the start of the year. And Peterbot and Cold can't be stopped. Ritual is just constantly just putting them in the best positions to just do what they do. So you got to give props to him, as well as the fact that he actually can get fraggy himself as well, right? He sort of has to restrict his game so that they can shine, right? Like he's the tarper and they got him doing the pre-edits. Like what? He should not be the one doing the pre-edits, right? It's like Pete and Cold are there with their shotguns out every endgame, like, fucking put it on, Richie. He's like, I'm tarping, mate. Like, I'm trying to fucking get us ahead. But like, yeah, this team is just silly. And I wonder if it will be like close, because, you know, I just said there, like, I think it will be somewhat close, and then they'll just sort of like stomp through the end and like make it look not close by the end. But do you guys think there's a chance that we see like a historic level performance where they just like, you know, win 5 games again or something, you know, like just win by 400 points or something? You know what I mean? Like, what, do you think we are potentially on the verge of something like that happening?
Yes. That's my any analysis. Yes. No. I think, you know, you can't count anything out, I think, with this team, because when you look at a lot of the historic performances, let's just say Peterbot again, or, you know, you look at the previous seasons and, you know, you got some doubts, you've got some questions. Can they do it in grands? Oh, they did it in 2 grands in a row and they came second the other one. Can they do it in global championship? Oh, they did it in global championships. Oh, now they're together. Can they win every divisional cup? Oh, yeah. Can they win the first? You know, it's like whatever question you ask, the answer about this team is basically just probably yes. So, you know, will they make a historic performance? Almost definitely. I feel like they're going to come the most locked in they possibly can. And I think we're going to rival, I don't know if I'm going to say a 6-12 kind of win, but I feel like we're going to have an insane performance come Grands, and it's not even going to be close.
See, the only reason I'm going to disagree is because it feels like every single win it's close until they just clutch the last 2 games, as Levin said. Globals was the same. All the divisional weeks were the same, where it is, you look in game 5, you're like, wait, there's a chance they're like 30 points, 40 points ahead. 20 bomb last game. Now they're 120 points on the leaderboard ahead. Oh, wait, they're not even in first going into last game. 15 kill win. Then they just win the tournament. It's like, it just happens every single tournament so consistently. Like, Fortnite is one of the games that people think there's so much RNG and so much, you know, like, anything can happen, you know, it is Fortnite. But the same things just keep happening time and time again. It's frustrating because I like different people winning. I like to see the different storylines, but when Peterbot gets picked up or plays with Cold, who is, again, very close to him mechanically, and Ritual, who, as you said, Levin, is putting them in the same positions, you know, I don't know. I just don't see how, like, they don't win, but I do think it will be close, just because that's how it seems like it always is for them.
That's what I'm saying. With them, there's a potential. You could say there's equal the potential of it being close and then winning in the final game as them just dominating. Like, all of those outcomes, I think, are equally as possible as the previous.
but they all end in one way. They
exactly,
win.
yeah.
They win. I just realized I accidentally, well, not accidentally, but like my just subconscious body just put them like first in like the S tier, right?
That's fine.
But it now makes it look like a globals leaderboard where you just have Pete, Cold, Ritual, and then just a bunch of EU, and then everybody else. You know, it's like that's been globals the past couple of years. But NA fans will tell you otherwise. Rapid Bolts Canada then is our last team to put in the ranking. Where do you put these guys? How do you feel about this trio?
Is Bolts trenching?
Yes,
that's the question.
Yes.
Then B tier. Then B tier. This is my one team I would put into B tier from NA.
Really?
I think so. And it's generally just because you have Grands coming up, and all the other teams are going to be like right now. If you put them, they're all probably the same level, very similar level. But I don't know how much effort they're going to be putting into Grands. I don't like, and I know it's an intangible. It's something you can't say yes or no. It's guaranteed they're going to be doing, but when you have someone who is outwardly saying basically he does not want to play the game, he does not want to play grand finals, he does not want to play tournaments, he is playing evals and cash and weekly cups on mute and on deafen, and they're trying to communicate with the in-game communication. How can I put you in the same tier as the other teams? I just can't.
Die in mid-game, and then he goes AFK. Intentionally, I saw him in one of the opens, he just fucking died. And it looked so intentionally, died like 3 times in one game. I was like, this is not very Bolts. Like, Bolts is a really safe fighter. He's like running off by himself, just dying in like 5th zone, and then not saying a word. I'm like, this boy he's in the trenches right now, making cash.
Well, it's not just Bolts though. Rapid's the same.
I was about to say Rapid's exactly the same. And Canada basically wants to quit. I mean, I don't know if that's going to continue. I don't know if he basically is like, if I don't get a top 3 team, I'm out. So he obviously is convinced that these guys are a top 3 trio because he's not given up yet and stopped playing.
It's weird because they like kind of like boss everything they play, even though like they're not trying. Like, you know, they won first.
And look at the
game.
caliber of them. Yeah,
you know? But that's the problem, because in terms of the caliber, like this is an insane trio. I don't know. I know what you like. I think the analysis is valid. Like, I think based off of what we've seen, it makes sense to put them as like B tier. Because I just don't see these guys winning. And in fact, maybe, like in terms of like the other ones in A tier, the other NA teams in A tier, like there's actually like a luck chance they win, you know, or something like that. Whereas like with Canada right now, there just looks like no hope of them actually winning.
Yeah.
I don't think they're bad. I think they're actually good. And if they try, they're actually good. And Uncon Demon's Dojo is like, you know, not a bad spot to have for these guys as well. It's just the uncertainty looming around, like, how much are they really putting into it? It's the reason why there's another team that you'd probably argue maybe should have been put on this tier list, but would have ended up just being rated low, just because, again, it's like, you know, I'm referencing Booga here, by the way, if people didn't know, but like Booga, Booga, Aviv, and Frets, like they were a team that coming into the season I was quite excited about. Like I was watching all of Booga, and I said on the pod a couple weeks ago, like I was actually quite impressed with how they were playing. Like he was playing for height really well. Like they were one of the best height teams in the region. And since, you know, all the millions were raked in from meme coins, him and Aviv and lost. Yeah, him and Aviv just haven't seemed to be locked in at all. And it's weird because Frets, I feel like I kind of feel bad for Frets, because I think Frets is a bit more locked in, and he seems to be like he kind of wants to try. But like, yeah, I don't know if, you know, Booga's gonna have the right read on Surge for them to be as consistent as some of the other teams, right? And you could maybe argue the same thing of Rapid Bolts and Canada. I think Rapid Bolts and Canada, I think it'll be more straightforward for them game to game, which is why I still think they should be considered a contender. It's just, they're a bit lower down, I think.
I feel like they're just trying to get through the season. That's all it feels like. They're just trying to get through this season and go and move on. It doesn't feel like they're striving to win. It doesn't feel like when I watch Canada play, it doesn't feel like they it doesn't matter whether they win or not.
But then it does also still say a lot about them that even in a season where they're just trying to like stumble their way through, they're still able to like have some banging performances where they do just win.
Which is why it's so frustrating. Which is why it's like it's just so frustrating as someone who enjoys watching Canada play. It's the funny Canada thing where it's like, oh, I can watch Canada, I know what I'm getting. Scuff mid-game above Surge, Scuffed end-game, top 3 every game. That's just the Canada way.
Realistically, there's a world where this was supposed to be the second best team in the net.
It was supposed
And
to
I
be,
could see it. I see the potential.
If you give me like OG season Canada, when he's just like full max Nada, Bolts like just playing peak, and then Rapid like cooking up with Raz some like mental strat. Like these guys should actually just be the second best team in this region, no?
They should.
Yeah. If he comes with if it's Durag Nada, then I think we're in for a
He
show.
did wear it in Heat.
He was wearing it yesterday, yeah. I think one of them, I think Vivid said it on the broadcast, and I was like, there's no way he just said that. But yeah, no, that's weird. I don't know. It feels wrong putting them in B, because they're not a B tier team in my eyes. But I understand it. Like, B makes sense for the scenario like that they're currently in, I think. Yeah.
Little addition quickly. I like how, despite the fact we're talking about Rapid Bolts in Canada, we still manage on the FNtasia podcast to get a little bit of Booga hate in each episode.
No, but you know, yeah.
All the NA fans, I did not make the tier list about the NA teams. Levin picked the NA teams for their tier list.
But the thing is, though, right? Like, this like Booga hate thing is, there's been episodes where we've not said anything bad about Booga, even like praise Booga, and then there'll be someone in the comments every time like, bloody hell, you guys Booga hate every time. Like, I feel like if we just mention Booga's name, people presume it to be hate, even if they don't like actually understand what we say.
Impression farming. We're trying to get more comments. Leave them below. We read them all.
Yeah.
Especially the ones about my mustache. That's why it's gone. You know.
I did notice that last day.
Yeah.
I read all the Spotify comments, but like every like episode, there's people in the Spotify comments like, "Do you guys even read this anymore?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm reading. I'm like reading it right now, buddy." Yeah, shout out to all the Spotify listeners and Apple Music listeners. I think there's like 2 of you guys,
there you go.
and then everyone else on YouTube. So, well, yeah.
I was going to say, I thought you had the next segment or anything, but
I mean, I do. I mean, we could like do more, but I feel like that's a nice place to wrap it up. Really, you know.
I was going to say, do you want to go through my tweet of the hot takes going into Grands first?
Let's do some hot takes. Let's do some hot takes going into Grands.
Yeah, we got a lot.
And how can I forget? You've got super thanks
you can't forget that. Right. So I'll read through the first one. So I tweeted, "What's your hot take going into FNCS Grands this season?" The first is from our boy Teddy Boone, who says, "Any Grands will end up being absolute cinema. The veterans will show up, even if their hearts want to be in the meme coins. Fear Cold Ritual may still win, but it'll be close and with big moments in block capitals." That's, I think, aimed at you, Levin.
Moments. I mean, I'm ready for some moments.
You always are ready for some moments. What are your thoughts on... we've kind of already mentioned everything and ends up coming close. I think next one I think is interesting here from Zyok says, "Rezoy will come top 10 even though it's his first Grands."
Ooh.
They're landing Magic Mosses and Con. And there's going to be 3 more teams added to the lobby, so maybe someone like messes that up, but like they have like so much loot because they also are like claiming like the metal bit like underneath Flooded. So like they have like infinite loot. I mean, they should do good.
I can see it. I mean, they looked really good this weekend, to be honest, but obviously you gotta take that with a pinch of salt. They were getting live coached by Raz, and I mean, Raz, I think, live coached like 10 grand finalists, final qualifiers this weekend. He was on a roll this weekend, but yeah, they look pretty solid. I could definitely see them in top 10. I doubt they're going to get the caravans. I doubt that very much, because it's going to be in Grands. Always these splits they get taken.
Someone will take that. Surely.
Someone will take it. And what kind of just happened in a lot of the like weeklies was back when Vino was landing Magic Mosses. They wanted the caravan. They very quickly realized that to get the caravan, you're going to have to key them, and the fights can get messy because Flooded can third party. So
Lost Lake can look at you if they're fighting on the metal as well. Like that's the kind of thing. Like that spot is the kind of spot where one of the teams that will call from Last Chance will just claim that, and then like those guys will just be like, "All right, you can have it. We'll just take Magic Bosses." Then like
they don't have the aura to be.
They don't have any aura to hold on to that much loot. But I think it's really good though.
Yeah,
true. Another one from Knight says, "This is going to be the most entertaining FNCS, where I think underrated teams we never saw can place in the top 5.
Who is your underrated team that's going to place in the top 5?
Yeah, what is that team? My team, I guess, would be like Mixon, Blaha comeback. I know
Mhm.
Shattered Span is a really good spot. And they were super consistent in Group 3 yesterday. They looked really good. They came close.
I'm going to give the poor announcer that I always give to this. Nathan be Eclipse. You know, I've always got to have him in there. I mean, again, they did everything they needed to this weekend. They even became contested and had to like split Twinkle and still won the game from there. So, I mean, like, I just think there'll be another team who is within the top 10 who no one ever talks about, will never talk about because none of them stream. And to be fair, even Nathan, you do get Nathan's POV now on the Havoc Twitch channel, but
True.
no, for sure. I think they'll be the ones who are in the top 5 for me, if there is one.
I think, obviously, EU obviously picks Dharm and Demos. They're not really underrated. I think they're underrated as far as the average person goes because they don't really know the names yet. They're not big names. They look insanely good. I want, Starkus, Lush, and the Freezy. I'd be really impressed. They're all spawned. It's probably not going to help them out whatsoever in that. They definitely impressed me in groups, and a team that's definitely been on the come up, I would say. I think they're very good. We've had a few that says Moneymaker's going to come top 5. 2 or 3 people said Moneymaker. Actually, I just realized one of them is IRL Moneymaker. Is that actually Moneymaker's account? Might be him saying he's coming top 5, so that might make sense. Might be another account.
They need to start making more predictions. Did you see the tweet? I think it was Goodenbury. He tweeted before the last game, quota Grands landing whiffy in Grands, and before last game, and then goes win last game in the the groups. Yeah,
That's actually sick.
That might be on it.
Maybe needs more predictions, but no, they looked really good. Like, surprisingly good. I mean, they did have like a couple of duds, but as soon as they got uncontested, as soon as Zara ended up going to Flooded Frogs, they ended up getting uncontested. It was like, oh, well, now they get a second in their first in their next 2 games. It's like, who knows what they can do when they get uncontested.
Yeah. And 2 more. One of them I think is really interesting. I don't think this will ever be the case. FNCS is from Adam M. FNCS winners have not qualified yet.
Oh my god. I was thinking that there was another conversation about that, which was, do you think there's going to be someone who's going to quota Grands who isn't Div 1? Because all divisions can play.
No.
Nah, surely not. Surely not.
Actually, no, yes, there will be. There 100% will be someone from like Div 3 that qualifies, and then they will be removed for cheating.
Banned.
Yeah. No, I'm saying a legit like Div 2 player. Do you think they're going to qualify?
A legit Div 2 player? No.
Okay. There's such a big difference. And the final one, I will give out the final one. I think this might be a potentially interesting discussion that may or may not happen. Fishing will be nerfed 3 days before Grands.
I believe this is going to happen. I believe this as well. We've had it I'm thinking of every Grands we've had the week before. The Chain of Hades got nerfed. Actize got nerfed. It is a very similar change. And the jetpacks also before Globals. Like, I would not be shocked if this gets removed.
I don't think it'll get removed, but I feel like they might just like nuke the rate of getting shieldfish, because that's the real problem, right? It's just you're too likely to get shieldfish from like just regular fishing.
It's over 50%. Like, crazy. That's insane.
Yeah. I don't know why they made that change. Like,
right?
It's the fact that fishing is easier in a non-fishing spot. Like, what is the point in the fishing?
Why would that be? Yeah, like why would that be a thing? I don't know. No clue. Yeah, that was even.
That's all the good hot takes. A lot of you guys had some awful hot takes that were not hot takes,
and that's why Hotline Defend doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, so let's get into the super thanks this week. Which super thanks do we have? We have my guy Jordy Sosa back again. Jordy Sosa says, "Why this Booger hate? Imagine Booger was an EU player." This is just too poetic. Like, it's just like you can't make this stuff up. Imagine Booger was an EU player, won World Cup, and won 3 FNCS in EU. Y'all be saying he's the GOAT of Fortnite. And why is Boot becoming more sassier every month, I swear?
I mean, I can't say anything about the Boot thing, but if Booger won more in EU, in the better region, of course he'd be higher up. Of course, like, that's obvious. It's like...
All right, on to the next one. Thank you, Jordy Sosa, as always, for your contributions. Don't hate Boop for bringing out his inner white girl with his Stanley clap. Love this pod about 3 grown men discussing Peterbot's romantic life and how it could save NA.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about this.
Yeah, that's, you know what? Yeah, Boop had the Stanley Cup. No, I respect the Stanley Cup. I just thought it was a bit funny because it was, shout out to Coach Boop, man. What a legend. But Peterbox romantic life, I mean, that could be what is the downfall of NA. Like, if he just starts like hard E, I think he is a bit of an E-dater from when I've spoken to him. He seems like an E-dater. But
Clearly not enough to affect his performance. That's the
Not
problem.
enough, right? That's the problem. Yeah, not enough. Not enough. And this week, number 1 goes to our boy, the Scouse Truck. What a name. Hey guys, love the podcast. Quick question. Do you think rank should be more like comp where certain items are banned? Me personally, rank is for grinding to get better, so it should be more like comp and not pubs, as I think pubs is just for having fun with your friends. I think we all would agree with you, my friend.
Don't get me talking about ranked. I will be here for hours and
Somebody
hours.
in the comment section below who's a real FNtasia listener, what's the episode where we talked about this in depth? Link that episode in the comments so that our good friend of Scouse Truck can go watch it, because we had this conversation quite a bit.
And nothing.
All I'm going to say on a short addition that is newer information is that I haven't played much Battle Royale when I do play because ranked is so bad. It's just pubs now. So like my map knowledge now that I'm not playing tournaments is significantly worse because I'm not playing ranked either. So
this guy can barely name a POI. It's kind of hilarious.
Maybe
we'll do a game next week of just Reese trying to name POIs. It should be fun.
You should have done it. You should have recorded the last time when you asked me those questions.
We did that.
True.
That would have been easier.
Before we go, we recorded some videos last week doing previews for NA and EU group stages, and it was a lot of fun. We had Harry, of course. Me and Harry talked about EU, and on the NA side of thing, I had my guy Teddy Moss. He actually read out one of his tweets. So shout out to Teddy. We might get him on the pod at some point. Yeah, no, Teddy was super cool, really nice guy, had some good insight. But Teddy obviously has the Clutch Up Esports Fantasy, and we invited a bunch of you guys in the FNtasia community to join our FNtasia Fantasy League. And we're going to do it again for the grand finals. So check the comments of this video. Hopefully by then the fantasy page has been made, because right now it hasn't been. But hopefully it's made for this weekend. And if not, follow us on Twitter, because we'll tweet about it so you guys can join our league as well. And I actually just wanted to show the results.
Oh, I know why you're showing this.
I just wanted to show the results. Of course, if you can get my screen share back up, I wanted to show the results because
Mickey.
Group 3 of EU was won by yours truly, 11-2K.
Whoa.
Ready, set, go. That's my team right there. Ready, set, go. That was me. I had a heater. My team was unreal. So me and Harry obviously discussed our teams on the episode we did, right? And I actually changed my team last second.
I know you did. This is why I was so confused.
I changed my team 5 minutes before the tourney started, and the change I made was just perfect, and it made sure I won. So if you want to know what my team was, I picked Kamiseti, Malibu Ping, Hantry, Combeck, and Mixon, and then a bunch of other people who did pretty much fuck all. But to be fair, some of them got decent points for me. Like the guys who landed at Shoguns got a lot of points. Anyway. High False and High Frozy got a lot of points for me as well. But yeah, last second, I had Moneymaker in my team, which actually wouldn't have been a bad choice, to be fair. But I initially had Moneymaker and somebody else, and like I got rid of them to get Cammy and Seti, which ended up meaning I got the win. But it's funny because it like you can kind of see like my old team, and for some reason my team didn't update in the FNtasia like group. So like on the global leaderboard I won, but in FNtasia I didn't. It's like my old team is in the FNtasia league. So it kind of like
you're screen shared and showing this just to set the record straight and flex on all the FNtasia viewers. Just so you know, I did actually win.
Well, I beat everyone. Like there's like 80 people who played. 84 people played, and I beat everyone. I saw like Scully play. Like Scully had a team.
Scully. I got all of those people to play.
Look, ADN there in 79.
Look, ADN, you stinker. You absolute stinker.
I was taking the piss out of him when he was making it. I was like, I don't think I've seen a worse pick.
What was ADN's team? ADN picked. He didn't pick a single game winner. Holy shit. Yeah. What was bro cooking? Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's funny because this one I came like 30th, and then in the group 2 one I came 10th, which is much better. I did way better in the group 2 one.
Wait, where is your team, Harry? Let's see.
It's 30.
Are you I Love Epic Whale?
34th, I think.
34th. Coach's team. What a name.
What a name.
Coach.
Wow.
Yeah, look,
Harry-
so I had...
Only one game winner.
Yeah, but the thing is, some of the points haven't updated, I will say, because there's 3 people here who qualify for grants.
Yeah, it's fine. Excuses. Don't ask me how I did in NA. Also, because I don't really know. How did I do in NA? Oh, I got 8th. I got 8th in NA.
No, wait, you're forgetting the one. You're forgetting the one above because you're saying 8th.
We'll ignore that one. Yeah, we'll ignore that one. When NA came 8th, who came? Harry's beard came
That was
second.
me. It was not me. But I'm here.
Harry's beard came second in NA.
What was he
Group
cooking?
3. Yeah, what was this guy's team? This guy had Bucky, Curly, Noxie, Ages. Yeah, I mean, this is some good picks. Yeah, he got 3 game winners and then some decent performances as well.
Yeah. That was a $1 pick on this group, by the way.
There was
$1. When
they got
3 is
0 points.
Yeah, I think he was the one
who
who
$1 team. Yeah. Well, I picked them because it just meant I could pick another stacker of a team because I picked. Yeah, I got 3 game winners, which wasn't too bad.
But yeah.
Yeah, so
we gotta get Reese's team next one.
Yeah, I'll get in for that. Looks fun. I missed that because
Reese, you gotta play. Get a team in. In the video, if you want to understand how it sort of works a bit more, the video I did with Teddy on NA preview last week, we sort of went in depth a bit more and we like picked a team together, so you can sort of get an idea for it if you're watching and you don't quite understand. But get involved, play. We're going to be playing it for grand finals, and I will win again in the grand finals. Can't wait to win again. Yeah, feels so good to just beat everyone and be better than everyone. Amazing.
When up against myself, you're not often winning in the predictions.
Yeah. Okay, buddy. Okay, well, actually, Resub. Actually, where is it?
I could take out mine as well, Evan. I could take out mine too. We both.
Oh, is this your effing? Well, you can explain it.
I don't know where I put
mine. We both own this. I ended up winning mine, but
for the listeners,
For the listeners, I'm not going to ruin it because Levin is looking for it, and I think that will ruin the surprise. There you go. You know what's disappointing?
The winner of the last predictions game on FNTS.
Oh, I'm on that one. I've not even seen that.
Yeah, Reese is on it because he won the one before me. Zeke is on it not because he won, just because it's Zeke, and we all like Zeke.
He's on it twice. Is that like a shadow of him?
Yeah, he's got a shadow behind him.
Yeah, but I was the winner. So
for the audio listeners who can't see that, whilst we were doing the broadcast, we did predictions, and we basically whoever won the predictions across the whole season, was it whole season or grand?
Yeah, it was the whole season.
Whole season, yeah, got a little plaque with prediction royalty on it. I did win. I've actually gotten rid of that because I was cleaning out the house and it was just sitting in a drawer, so it has unfortunately gone to the bin. But
wow, that's so sad.
Wow.
That's
I know.
Really sad, Reese. Well, either way, thank you all for listening to this episode of the FNtasia podcast. We will see you all after the grand finals to discuss who the winners were. Let us know your predictions for the grand finals in the comment section down below. We appreciate you all for the support as always, and we will see you all next time.
Bye.
Peace out.